Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to the second Women in Artificial Intelligence Symposium and Career Fair by the Canadian chapter. This is Francie Clement, the ambassador for Canada for Women in AI and a principal data scientist at ADP. And I'm one of the hosts for today's event. I'm very honored and super excited to welcome you all to this event. Canada has been at the forefront of creating an ecosystem where AI can thrive, and more talent is attracted to learning and working in AI technology in industries, startups, and research. We have some pioneers, Turing Award recipients, and a vibrant tech startup ecosystem, and a very advanced research ecosystem. Today, we have the honor of hosting leaders across Canada from such organization where we will be able to delve deeper into the recent advances and applications of AI. Today's event will include keynotes, panel discussion, fireside chat, technical workshops from the top AI research institutes, and a virtual career where you will have the opportunity to chat with 25 hiring managers from 13 different organizations. Next, I would like to take a few minutes to briefly talk about women in AI. So I'm going to share my screen. Hope you can all view my screen. So women in AI is a journey that started with many people and many years ago, and it is creating an impact like no other. And the journey is still continuing thanks to the amazing set of volunteers we have. To give a quick introduction, Women in AI is a global community of women AI professionals working towards shaping an inclusive AI for the future. So, our ambition is to make women more job ready, help them enter or advance their career in artificial intelligence, and motivate them to get more into the research projects, into more startups, build more startups, or work in more exciting projects in AI. Very important role of women in AI is that we are also trying to motivate adoption of responsible use of AI. So Women in AI has been launched 2017, and it is present in more than 150 countries. We have over 10,000 members globally and more than 40,000 followers through our social media channels. In Canada, it was launched in 2020. We have presence in over 7 cities now, and all our initiatives are led with the help of 50 plus volunteers. Our registered members are more than 850. So far, we have launched or conducted 43 events, and just in 2022, we have done 25 plus events. So just showing the growth and impact of women in AI. Just the last year, we saw a 30% increase in our membership, double the growth in our followers, and over 25 events in 2022. This is just some charts to show our community and reach. Our presence is the most in Toronto, Montreal, and Calgary. And our community is very highly talented. Majority of them, 60% of them being a master's or a PhD graduate. We have done many programs and initiatives, panel discussions, technical workshops, and all together 43 until now. Everything is possible only because we have this amazing group of talented professionals working for us as volunteers, as leaders, leading each of these initiatives. Shyamali Singham, she is the outgoing Toronto City lead. We also have Nami, who I don't have it here, her picture here, but she is the incoming Toronto City lead. We have Sinavu Nadie, Gabrielle, Yukon, Alicia, Kathy, Bemisola, Julia, and Yvonne. They are part of the core team of leaders for Women in AI. Canadian chapter. So this is the amazing set of volunteers for the Canadian chapter. Kudos to all of their efforts. That is how we are able to pull all these events just like today's into fruition. So the programs for Women in AI are focused on three key pillars: inspire, educate, and connect. And under each of the pillars, we have different initiatives. Y Awards is one of our flagship event where we celebrate role models across US, Canada, and Mexico by saluting their contributions towards AI across different categories. The second edition of Y Awards North America is coming soon, so stay tuned for more updates. And also, please don't forget to nominate yourself. We have also done many panel discussions on very important topics last year. We have done many educate program. Most importantly, Why Educate, which is the educating teen girls, where we have built foundational AI courses for teen girls, and we run a summer program for that. And we also have a hackathon where interested participants who would like to learn about product pitching or how to build AI products or how to solve an AI use case or a project, they can join. They will learn through a team of mentors and also some workshops, and at the end of the day they will have a presentation to the judges, and they also win some cool prizes. We also have technical workshops called as master class. So we also have amazing mentorship opportunities. We have launched a Y mentorship program last year, and we launched our first cohort with 30 mentees and 30 mentees and 10 mentors. We are also waiting for the next cohort to open, which will be end of February. So please join as soon as possible to save your spot. We've also done career fairs and in-person meetups. So there were 3 in-person meetups across Canada. So in Toronto, these are some pictures from the Quebec in-person event. There are some pictures from the Calgary in-person event. We also participate in several conferences throughout the year, and these are some of the conferences that we participated in last year. We host several panel discussions and also go and attend a speaking or at our booth to kind of get exposure to our community and to actually let the world know that there is such a community that exists, that women can lean on and be part of the community. There are several recognitions that some of our community members or team members have got because of their contribution through their volunteering activities at Women in AI, and also through their contributions to their professional career. So we feel that this is just the beginning for Women in AI. We have so much more to do. So we all hope to get your support and your help as we continue the journey. In 2023, what we are hoping to do is to add a few more initiatives to help women become more job ready, and also to improve our membership engagements. And a very important event that is going to start open very soon is the Women in AI Awards North America 2023. With that, I would like to give my appreciation and thanks to the incredible sponsors and partners for Women in AI, starting with Mila, Amy, Vector Institute, York School of Continuing Studies, AltaML, ATB Financial, Aris, Slalom, Databricks, Beniwa, Corporators, Honor Hub, La Console, Widens, Next AI, University of Alberta, and our partners, Women in Data, Products by Women, Lee Wagon, Accenture, Happy Hive, Think Data Works, Toronto Machine Learning Society, Responsible AI Institute, and ML Ops Institute. So that's all about women in AI. Now we are going to start the most important session of today. So we have six hosts who will be taking you through the whole event today. Sinabu, Gabriel, Yvonne, Nani, Shia, and Yakund. They are the organizers behind the scene. So over to you, Sinabu, for introducing the next speaker for the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Princey. Now let me introduce you all to our next speaker, Dr. Alessandra Sala. Alessandra is the Senior Director of AI and Data Science at Shutterstock. She's an research and scientific leader in artificial intelligence with over 10 years of experience in research and innovations, which she gained while working in academic and commercial environments. As the global president of Women in AI, Alessandra is working with a strong community of women to foster diversity, inclusion, and equity for women and minorities, while also encouraging a global ethical approach in AI. In her previous appointment, Alessandra was head of analytics research and Nokia Bell Labs, where she was leading the research team in several locations and developing a successful strategy for the data analytics division while driving changes across different activities, like her contributions to the Nokia AI Ethics Advisory Board. Welcome, Alessandra.
Women in AI is a do tank of strong professional women, expert in AI, who are taking concrete action towards empowering women and minorities in building an inclusive AI ecosystem for our common future. But let me start with a broader consideration. We live in an historical moment where more than ever, we see in many countries that equal opportunity are still a dream for many, and inequalities are fracturing our society. On the other hand, our life and decision are intrinsically influenced by the outcome of AI system, which unfortunately often fail to create equitable outcome for everyone. There isn't an easy solution to the fractured society and deeply manipulated by modern society, by modern technology. So, however, it's our shared responsibility to participate, to commit, and act in changing the course towards a more equitable society and technology around us. In this context, we need to guarantee that the participation of all of you, women, minority, in every aspect of our societal and economical life, becomes part of our action every day. In tech, including more diverse perspectives, starting from design to the development of AI system, it's mandatory. We have been asked, I have been asked as a manager, as many of you, for the past 15 years to hire more women, but that was the wrong question. If we look at the number of the latest report from the World Economic Forum to the AI index, women in tech are always pretty much at the same level. The number of women hasn't changed much in the past many years. Today, we assess the symptoms of this problem, of how many women we have in our workforce, while we should be laser focused on the causes that affect low participation and actually measure our progresses in making changes to solve those issues. We need to sincerely ask ourselves the effectiveness of our commitment, the effectiveness of our policies and action, and therefore trying to assess what else we should do. My and Women in AI approach is that we all need to act now. It starts with every one of us. For instance, taking a critical look of our cultural norms, the unequal behavior we expect from our boys and our girls, the invisible gendered meaning of our language, and the cultural standard we impose even on their dreams at a young age, which impact girls' life choices. We need to invest more in STEM education and helping women to enter the workforce in the tech world. And therefore, that's why this event today, it's so fundamental to us, because it speaks to that action that we are trying to pull together as a community to offer and support, to offer more opportunity for women to enter the tech space, and to support more women through mentorship and education to actually have strong careers and inspire the young generation. So we fundamentally believe on the importance of us being here together today. And please join Women in AI, becomes part of this movement. We are not just talking about having more women in the workforce. We are doing everything that we can to connect, educate, and inspire more women to become our future leaders. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexandra, for this very, very informative and also very motivating few moments of message from you. I know when I joined Women in AI, we were all looking up to a strong leader like yourself to, join the helm of the global team, and you've done such an outstanding, support and leadership for us. Thank you so much for that, and we continue to hope that to receive the same from you in the coming years and all our team members. Thank you so much. So next up, we have one of the highlight of today's session. It is my honor and privilege to introduce the keynote speaker for today, Elisa Strong. She is the Executive Director of the Pan-Canadian AI Strategy at SAFAR. She works with the leaders at Canada's 3 national AI institutes in Edmonton, AMI, Montreal, Mila, and Toronto Vector Institute, and across the country to advance Canada's leadership in AI research, training, and innovation. She is also a champion of equity, diversity, and inclusion in science, and an ambassador for Canada's position in AI research, innovation, and policy internationally. She's a member of federal government's AI Advisory Council, where she co-chairs the Public Awareness Working Group and the OECD network of experts on AI. She has a PhD in neuroscience and also a postdoc from Lund University. She has served many years as the Vice President in Research and Innovation at University of Toronto. So today she'll be talking to us about a very important topic. Equity, diversity, and inclusion are central to Canada's leadership in AI. Let's hear from Elisa Strong.
Thank you so much, Francie, for the introduction. One sort of minor correction to your introduction. I wasn't the Vice President Research at the University of Toronto, but I was the Director of Strategic Initiatives in that office for about 10 years. I'm going to share my screen now, and I know you'll let me know if anybody has problems seeing it, but I can see it, and so I'm going to jump right in. It's really an absolute pleasure to be here with this audience today. I'm delighted to be joining you from Toronto, which is the traditional home of many Indigenous communities, including the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, the Petun, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. And we are, of course, so grateful for their millennia of stewardships of this land to enable us to be able to live and work and have the opportunity to share on this land today. So as Francie said, I'm the executive director of the Pan-Canadian AI strategy. And I often say that means, I'm going a little too fast. That means that I have the best job in Canada. I really, really have the privilege to work with leaders across our AI ecosystem, primarily at the 3 AI institutes, to advance Canada's leadership in AI research, innovation, training. And really the work that I've been involved in started in 2017 with the announcement of the Pan-Canadian AI strategy. But I'm happy to share the story with you today of the long history of AI in Canada. So in 2017, the federal government recognized that Canada had a long and strong history in AI and a very strong foundation, but this was increasingly becoming a very competitive and a huge opportunity for the world to apply AI to both societal and economic challenges and opportunities. And so we wanted to make sure that we continue to build on our long history and strong foundation. And so the Pan-Canadian AI strategy was established with 2 primary objectives to begin with. And that was to, first of all, build very large, robust, dynamic, and diverse AI ecosystems in our 3 major centers in Edmonton, Toronto, and Montreal. And then also to make sure that we were continuing to invest and build a very deep pool of talented individuals with AI skills and expertise in those cities and also across the country. So we focused really on building up the strengths of the 3 national AI institutes. There we go. And establishing them each as the central hubs of their respective AI ecosystems. So you all know about Amy, Mila, and Vector, I hope. And here's a little bit of the detail about their efforts and where they focus their strengths and their priorities. And so at CFAR, we work with all 3 of these national AI institutes. And in fact, the 4 organizations work very, very closely together. We consider ourselves really the 4 partners of delivering on the research, innovation, and training components of the Pan-Canadian AI strategy. The way that we have been really investing and strategically advancing our objectives around building talent pools in Canada is primarily through the Canada CFAR AI Chairs program. So this is a program that we run at CFAR, which establishes really world-class researchers at each of the 3 AI institutes. And you can see the numbers that I've got across the screen here. To date, over the first 5 years of the strategy, we have now established nearly 120 Canada CFAR AI chairs across the AI institutes. And these are truly the world's leading scientists in AI. And they are advancing not just the fundamental science of AI, but also its application in very important areas like health, climate change, transportation, energy, etc. Further to the Canada CFAR AI chairs, of course, is also training the next generation of students in AI. So graduate students doing masters and PhDs, trying to advance, again, AI science and its applications. And you can see, again, hundreds of trainees across the AI institutes working in this space and working directly with those research leaders. Each of the AI institutes really has their own areas of specialty and expertise. Amy is known as a world leader in reinforcement learning and has a very strong cluster of experts working in that space, particularly working very closely with Richard Sutton, who is one of really the inventors of the field and has been pioneering advances in this space for decades. And Rich, we're very privileged to have Rich as the scientific director of Amy. So reinforcement learning is a strength there, but they also have a lot of expertise and activity in robotics, in NLP, and in AI applied to health. At Mila, Joshua Bengio is the scientific director. Everybody knows Joshua, and of course, he's a leading scientist in fundamental AI, but also leading the application of AI to important areas for society, drug discovery, antimicrobial resistance, climate change, to name a few. So Mila has great strengths in research and innovation, deep learning, as well as reinforcement learning, and also a significant focus on AI for health, including drug discovery. At the Vector Institute here in Toronto, again, led by scientific director Jeff Hinton, a well-known name in the AI field. Deep learning, again, of course, will be a major focus for them, but they have also identified and have been working very closely with the health ecosystem here in Toronto to think about applications of AI to deliver better health and better care for Canadians, as well as working very, very closely with industry. In fact, all three AI institutes have a dedicated focus on working with industry and new mandates, in fact, to do so and to support the adoption and commercialization of AI. They work with large and small companies in their ecosystems. They work with multinational companies who have established AI labs in their cities, some of the tech companies that you're familiar with. But they also work with Canadian companies, large companies across Canada that are thinking about how to adopt AI into their own business practices. And a key piece of the AI ecosystems and the AI institutes is supporting the startup ecosystems within their cities and helping to support the generation of new companies, new ideas, and new products and services. So really in the first 5 years of the strategy, we've seen significant growth in the AI ecosystem. And here's just a snapshot of some of the statistics. I'm not going to go through them all, and I've mentioned some of them already, but I would just maybe highlight that the startup ecosystem has been one of the places that we watch very closely and where we have seen really, really significant growth. Today across Canada, there are nearly 1,000 AI-based startup companies developing products and services to deliver AI-based approaches in all kinds of different sectors, a very strong focus in health, as I have mentioned, but also in areas related to the environment, in climate change, in financial services and beyond. What's been very interesting about the AI startup ecosystem is the significant increase in venture capital funding that we've seen go into that ecosystem. Every other year we're seeing a doubling of that investment, and last year it was 1.5 billion, which really puts us, as one of the world's leaders in this space. Canada is fourth in the world for AI innovation, implementation, and investment. And that, is really an amazing position to be in, considering we're such a small country with really quite a small GDP. We're the seventh largest economy in the G7, and yet we are fourth in the world, really just behind the US, China, and the UK. And so it's a really, really strong position that we're in Canada. So in June of last year, the federal government announced the second phase of the Pan-Canadian AI strategy, which included even deeper investments in strategic areas like standards development, like commercialization, and also in computing. And so CFAR and the AI Institutes have also continued to do our work and received renewal and new investments from the federal government to do that. And we have identified a few key priority areas that we're focusing on as we head into the second phase, building on that foundation that was laid in phase one. So the priority areas are continuing to advance fundamental science and AI, but also thinking about its applications, specifically in health and in energy and the environment. And I have mentioned that commercialization and thinking about AI adoption and innovation is another strategic priority. Crossing all the work that we do at CFAR is a real intense focus and commitment to understanding the societal implications of AI. So not only do we want to do research and innovation and commercialization, but we also want to make sure that we're understanding the policy and the legal and the ethical implications of AI, and you'll hear more about that. And also, cutting across all that we do is a real commitment to advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion in AI. And Alessandra so eloquently shared why that is incredibly important. One of the observations that I've made over my 5 years in working in this space is that Canada is really recognized on the international stage for our leadership in responsible AI. And this is something that is very deeply ingrained in our academic community. It's been part of the culture and values of academic AI research in Canada for decades. And it's something that our leaders really espouse and also share with their students. And so these are sort of values that are transmitted and shared across the academic research ecosystem. But what I have seen that's really interesting over the last 5 years is that commitment to responsible AI and the understanding of how ethical and responsible AI is really AI that is making a difference and a positive difference for society has also spread to both the government sectors and also to the private sector. So Canada is really well recognized as a world leader in federal AI policy and in regulation as well. And we are seeing that leaders in the private sector and private sector companies, the financial sector is a good example of this, really embracing and embedding the principles of responsible and ethical AI into their work. And likewise, one component of responsible AI is also engaging with the population, bringing regular citizens into the conversation about how AI matters to them and how it affects their lives and their work and how it's impacting society. Canada, again, is recognized as a world leader. One of the exercises that we led in Montreal in 2019 was the Montreal Declaration for Responsible AI, which was a very wide-ranging citizen engagement opportunity. And Canada has really built on that foundation and continued our work in this space. At CFAR, we are so committed to equity, diversity, inclusion. I think people who know me know that I'm passionate and committed to this space, and we've been really focused on this for many years. And so now we build it very intentionally into our policies and our programs and our procedures at CFAR. So for instance, in our Canada CFAR AI Chairs program, last year we established a policy that a minimum of 25% of our Canada CFAR AI chairs have to identify as women or non-binary. And so that policy helped us to actually achieve that goal. And we continue to grow the number of women and non-binary people who are working in the field. We focus a lot on increasing the opportunities for trainees from underrepresented groups to participate in AI training activities. We partner with organizations across the country at the high school and at the undergraduate and at the graduate level and beyond to make sure that we're providing training opportunities and the opportunity for people from all walks of life to develop AI skills and experiences. And new this year, I'm really excited to announce that we have the CFAR Inclusive AI Scholarship, which is focused on providing full funding support for any Black or Indigenous student participating in any of our partnered AI training programs. We also do a lot of research, policy, and engagement on equity, diversity, and inclusion in AI. We have a dedicated responsible AI working group among our Canada CFAR AI chairs, and it's a very lively place of discussion and collaboration and research. We have a dedicated research program called Data Communities for Inclusion, which is a 3-year network that is thinking about how to increase data access and literacy and AI application for women farmers in India. It's a really, really cool project. And we continue to work with the research ecosystem in Canada and around the world to advance ethical AI practices in the work that we do. On public engagement, I'm excited to share a new program that we have been working on to advance AI literacy among Canadians. It's called Destination AI. It's available in French and English. En français, c'est Objectif IA. And we've just launched it at CFAR. You can find it at the website I've listed below on this slide. It's about a 5-hour MOOC. It gives a great introduction for those who are new to the field, who are interested, who want to learn more, a bit of a background on what AI is, how it's developed, even a little bit of insight into the technical background, and also takes a look at the societal implications. So it's a great introduction for those who want to learn a little bit more. And I would highly encourage you, all of you, to share it with your family and friends who are interested in learning a little bit more about what AI is and how it's impacting their lives. You'll see more from us in the year ahead. CFAR, the CFAR team is working with many partners across the country to really raise awareness about this course and about the impact of AI on our daily lives. And so, you know, as I said, I have the best job in Canada, and I really enjoy working with the researchers and the trainees and the leaders across the country, and thinking very strategically about how Canada can continue to share our values and advance AI that is really delivering a positive social and economic benefit for Canadians and for the world. Areas like health, like climate, like sustainable energy, those are areas that we're really focused on and would love to see Canada continue to be a leader in. I'm happy to take some questions at this point if I have a little bit of time, Francie, and I'm going to open up the Q&A because I saw that there were some questions coming in as I was talking. And if anybody has questions, they can start putting them into the chat right now, or you can find me on LinkedIn and send me your messages there. I see one here that says, is it possible for a student in Africa to join CFAR to study? So CFAR is actually a virtual research institute. We're not a university. We're not an institute ourselves, a physical place ourselves for research and innovation. We work with partners across the country. But yes, there are opportunities for students in Africa to join us. And the best way to do that is to apply to our annual Deep Learning Reinforcement Learning Summer School. This is a technical program, very much of interest, I think, to the audience here today. And the applications are open right now. Please go to our website to get more information. And as I mentioned, we have scholarships for students from underrepresented groups to be able to participate in that program. So please apply. It's going to be happening this July in Montreal. It's really designed for senior PhD students and postdocs and those who are working in the field already applying AI and want to learn more about the leading edge of where the field is going. The next question I see is, what steps will I recommend to someone who is looking into switching careers into AI? That's a great question. AI is a field that we really need people from all walks of life, as I have said, but also people who bring different experiences and skills to the table. So I am not somebody, for instance, who is a computer scientist. I'm trained as a neuroscientist, and my career has been in research policy and strategy and administration. And yet here I am leading our national AI strategy. And so we need people with all kinds of expertise. So if you're somebody who's coming with a background in business and experience in business, we've got this very vibrant AI ecosystem of startups that are really looking for that kind of expertise to join their ranks. So I encourage you to take a look at the job boards. I know Women in AI has a job board. All of our AI institutes have job boards, and many of the other organizations across the country have job boards. And think about the particular skills and expertise that you have and how they might apply to the AI ecosystem. Here's somebody who's asking me about their technical skills. They're new to Canada. They're doing a PhD or maybe have a PhD already in computer science, and they want to know how to start some opportunities, and how to start their career in AI. And so again, I think a great place to start is to check the job boards at our 3 national AI institutes, depending which city you're in or which city you would like to be in. Think about the job boards on the many community organizations in AI, whether it's the Toronto Machine Learning Society, whether it's Women in AI job board, and other programs across the country. And it's also great to get some mentorship. So I know Francie shared with us the Women in AI mentorship program, which is an awesome way to get some insight and advice and ideas about where to go in your career. So with that, I think I'll leave it for now, but I want to thank everybody for letting me share this with you today, and for all your great work and leadership, and a special thanks to Women in AI Canada for their work to advance women in the field. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa, for that amazing keynote about the Canadian AI ecosystem, and to give us an overview of what we as a country has been doing so far. And it has been our privilege to host you today. Thank you so much for accepting our invite and coming and joining us today. So next we'll have Shyamali, who is our Women in AI Toronto City lead, and she will be taking us through the next session about announcing the Carolina Memorial Special Scholarship Award. Thank you.
Thank you, Francie, and thank you, Elisa, for your wonderful presentation as well. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. My name is Shyamali Peranirubasinghe. I'm a digital transformation leader, entrepreneur, and AI enthusiast. I'm a founder of an award-winning fashion jewelry brand, L'Amour Pearls. With my decade-long experience in digital technology in Canada and the UK, I'm very passionate about building business, technology, innovation in an effort to support social impact work. I'm an advocate for women in technology with a focus on cognitive equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I was instrumental in launching the very first Women in Artificial Intelligence chapter in Toronto in 2020. So this session is dedicated to honor, celebrate, and remember Carolina Pacio Pereira. We have decided to remember Carolina, who left us last year, by presenting a scholarship fund to a most deserving recipient from Latino background who are paving the way for young girls and community. About Carolina, she had an MBA degree from University of Toronto, Rotman School of Management, and a Master's of Management in Artificial Intelligence from Queen's University. Carolina had 15 years of international experience in technology. I met Carolina in early 2021 when she joined the Women in AI Toronto team. She was very passionate and enthusiastic about AI technology and wanted to make difference in the society. She was an advocate for women's professional advancement, which led her to take up a mentorship program lead within our group, which she absolutely loved it and did her best. Although it was a very short period that we had a chance to work together. And sadly, we never really met each other in person because due to our COVID restriction, we all had an interaction through Zoom. But surely she had made a huge impact with us. Now, I would like to invite her friend, Rosario Astuvilca Rojas, sorry if I have pronounced your name wrong, to share some words about Carolina. Let me introduce Rosario. She is a lawyer and a diversity, equity, and inclusion leader in the mining and metals industry. Rosario is a founder of Inclusive Mining and also a board director of a Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada. She also co-founded Hispano Mine and a Latin American Executive Women Network. Rosario has been recognized in 2022 as Canada's 10 most influential Hispanic and most powerful Latina. It's my pleasure to welcome you, Rosario, and I will ask you to share a few thoughts about Carolina.
Thank you so much, all and Women in AI, for allowing me to talk a little bit about my friend Carolina Pacheco, Caro, as we call it. A very special human being, somebody I met more than 15 years ago in Toronto. She was from Peru originally, like me, and we had so many conversations over the years about careers and advancing in technology. As Shimali mentioned it, Caro was had an MBA in Toronto and also pursued a master's in AI for the Queen's University program on the first cohort. She was really proud about that. After spending almost 13 years with Nestlé, which she led digital projects, not only in Canada, but in other countries as well. She was such a force and passion for women and wanted to work on her career and move into technology because she understood the power of technology, especially in AI, and what important this is for society. And we share a lot of and talk about our own challenges in evolving in this sector, and sharing with me, who work in the mining sector, who is a male-dominated sector, and some of the things and experiences she faced, it was very familiar to me. Even though with its many years of experience in digital transformation and a master's in AI, she wanted to join a tech company, and that was not easy for her. She realized that not only it's a problem with nobody having women in technology, but also women of color, immigrant like us, who had this experience, however, were not really well understood or welcomed by some of the corporations. So I'm sure she'll be thrilled and happy to see that we keep her legacy and all her work, not only for her own advancement in technology, but also to help others. She put a lot of effort and time, not only in finding a mentor for herself to advance her career, but also in helping others, young women, to go through the same challenges we face as an immigrants and people of color in advancing the career. So I'm super pleased to be here and to have this scholarship that Women United put together, because I think it's so important, especially for her and her family and friends who knew her, and her legacy that will continue. Caro shared with me that she wanted to be a mom. She couldn't have a family, so she didn't have a family. But this will be her legacy. People will remember her and remember all the work she did in this scholarship that will support other women, something that she would love to do and she was doing anyways. So thank you, and I'll ask Carlos to talk about more about the winners and the sessions today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosario. Now, I would like to introduce Carlos Paz-Soldan. He is a technology leader and entrepreneur. He has worked in South America, Africa, and North America. Carlos founded Tenet Computer Group, which is a Toronto-based IT solution provider. He is also a president of Hispanotech.ca, an association dedicated to the integration and success of Latin American technology professionals in Canada, and also a president of Alma Children's Education Foundation, which helps education in remote regions of South America. I would like to call Carlos to announce the winners of Carolina Scholarship Fund.
Thanks a lot, and it is an honor for me to be able to present the two winners of this scholarship. I actually met Carolina when she first came to Canada. I'm also from Peru, as you can probably see from my background. So she contacted us through Hispanotech, and she was a great success story as well. So what I want to do is introduce the two people that have been chosen for the scholarship awards. The first one is Raisa Sousa de Andrade, Raisa Cristina Sousa de Andrade. She's currently pursuing a PhD in biomedical engineering with a specialty in medical imaging in the University of Calgary at the Hopkins Brain Institute. She did her undergrad and worked as a software engineer in Brazil, mostly in Sao Paulo, before she moved to Canada to pursue her PhD. And because of her excellence in academia, she has been awarded two significant awards, the MyTax Global Link and Science Without Borders awards. She's currently researching and implementing distributed learning methodologies to enable the usage of advanced machine learning methods for rare diseases. So she's definitely a very deserving individual as well. And the second award is to Kelly Alejo, Kelly Melania Alejo Ampasa. She's a petroleum engineer from Bolivia with work experience in national and multinational companies. Currently, she's pursuing a master's degree in applied science at the University of Guelph in Ontario. And she's working as a research assistant at the Morwick G360, the Groundwater Research Institute. And she's an active global volunteer, has worked at the and works with the United Nations at that project. In addition, she has been a mentor for the Bolivia and Peru Youth Ambassadors Program and a facilitator for the Chicas Huasquiris project. That's a project that was born with the objective to support 100 outstanding girls between 14 and 17 to pursue a STEM career. In keeping with that, here in Canada, she's currently working at the Girls STEM system mentorship program, is the Guelph chapter in Canada. And her goal is to empower her community to be future girl leaders in STEM, in the STEM areas. So again, a very deserving individual as well.
Thank you, Carlos. I think we have a little bit of a mix-up in the beginning. We just missed Carissa's screenshot, so we just want to take a little bit moment to just, give a shout out to Carissa. She's one of the winners as well. Thank you again, Carlos, for your support, and also congratulations to both the winners, Kelly and Carissa. And you can also, reach out to us and be supportive to our community as well. And thanks again. And that's the end of this session for now. And we'll just give a quick moment to give a shout out to both of our winners. Thank you.
Thank you, Shia, Rosario, and Carlos for presenting this very memorable tribute to Carolina, and congrats to the two deserving winners of this award. My name is Namish Rehan. I am the incoming Toronto City lead. I've been part of Women in AI for almost 2 years now. I bring in digital transformation and AI adaptation experience, mainly from aerospace industry, and recently moved to the public sector in Ontario. I'm also an executive leadership coach. My mission is about supporting women break the glass ceiling in any way they can. I'm looking forward to carrying out legacy of our outgoing Toronto City lead, Shyamali Singham, and contribute to build a larger and more engaged community. So feel free to reach out to me in LinkedIn if you wish to join the Toronto team and support this community. We have an interesting lineup of in-person engagement, conference collaboration, and speaker spotlights for female leaders planned for Toronto in 2023. So do follow Women in AI Canada in LinkedIn so that you can be kept up to date in the future events. Now it's my privilege to introduce the next technical presentation on Neural Agent Assistant Framework for Customer Service Support, led by Elham Dolatabadi from Vector Institute. Elham is an applied machine learning scientist and health lead at Vector Institute. She has delivered innovative and practical AI solutions for healthcare. Prior to her current role, she was a postdoctoral researcher at the University Health Network, where her research focused on applying ML techniques in developing and evaluating intelligent health safety monitoring technologies. Elham completed her PhD at University of Toronto. And over to you, Elham.
Thank you so much, Nami, and the organizers for having me today. Give me a second so I can make sure that. Okay. There you go. So do you see the right screen?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Elham. I'm an applied scientist at Vector Institute, and it's my great pleasure to be here among you to present some of the works that we have done at Vector in this space. Basically, once I was invited to give a technical presentation, I've been going through basically some of the recent works, and I was basically trying to find a topic to present. And so it was right around the time that the chat GPT was out, and given this major breakthrough and its remarkable ability to interact in conversational dialogue from dialogue form and provide response that surprisingly, appeared to be like human. So I picked a project which is in line with these recent advances. And this is a great showcase of the way that we do our projects at Vector. So I'm part of the AI engineering team. Our mandate is to bring the world-class research into real-world needs. So basically, the way we work is through engagements with industry partners, healthcare organizations, public sectors, and also contributing open source repositories to other stakeholders. The topic of the work that I'm presenting today is building a neural agent assistant framework basically it's around how we can bring state of the art to customers. Okay. Oops. Okay, so you might have heard about the customer service assistant and or like customer service automations, the chatbots. So these days, it's very common for you, you want to do, if you have inquiries about your banking inquiries or like basically like for your insurance company or like even if you want to buy a stuff online, you want to reach out to customer service and you're bound just to you're asked or you're somehow forced to deal with the automated customer service agent first, and then then your question might be escalated to the real human agent. So all these, and on the other hand, on the corporate side or industry side, if you go and Google customer service assistant, the companies who are providing these services, they always claim that, hey, you should go for customer service automation because it reduces wait times, it brings more privacy and security. You can personalize them for your own task. And at the end of the day, and the most important thing is it reduces cost. And obviously, like industries and organizations, what they care at most is the cost to be reduced. But simply, basically, like so there are companies or providers who provide these agents. However, like just simply adopting these agents, automated agents, doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't necessarily help the industries to save cost and money. So just right before the holidays, so Forbes published this article about customer frustrations with the chatbots, and I'm somehow sure that you all have gone through this experience as well. You try your best to get to the human agents and try to bypass the chatbots. And so they published the outcomes of a recent survey about 78% of customers that interacted in chatbots. 80% say that we were not happy and they were forced to connect with a human after, and so on. I really don't want to go into all these details, but overall, so they were not happy. And so the ad tells us, hey, have this agent assistant and you can reduce cost. However, you might lose your customers, and it's not as easy as, okay, I go and get this product and it saves more money and brings more revenue. So the thing is that like any design and implementation needs intention. So what it means that, there's a product, so you want to go and get this product, but it requires you to tune that product based on your needs, and you have to basically make it more specific for your needs and for your own customers. So the output that the product gives you should match customers' need. And so this way the product would be more satisfying, more complete, and more effective. So basically what I'm trying to say is, look, you can't go and get a generic or domain agnostic product and go and just, it's not plug and play and put it in use it on your back end and then have your customers to interact with it. So basically like that day hasn't arrived yet, so that we can get a kind of domain agnostic product, and it saves our time and energy. So on the other hand, like the deep learning is like, okay, so most of the recent chatbots, the back ends are AI, and basically like, they're evolving, but we are still not there yet. However, like, behind the scene, the deep learning models are still evolving, and they are woven into the fabric of our lives. This is like just I would say the past. So BERT came out 3 years ago, these large language models. And as you see, over 3 years, they've been evolving, they've been improving significantly in terms of the performance and in terms of the size and compute. So AI is keep evolving, which is good. But the question is, how can we make it work for us? So because of this, so we create an interdisciplinary approach at Vector. So we had this idea, okay, building a neural agent assistant for basically like we got many requests from our industry partners that they're in need of having a better chatbot or a customer service agent, a virtual agent that can help them. And so we are Vector, we've been dealing with large language models. So we thought, okay, let's form a collaboration project. So let's solve this this problem in an interdisciplinary approach. So the way it worked for us was like basically around the table, it was us. We had researchers from academia, and we had a number of industry partners work with us to solve and basically to develop an emerging NLP model for conversational AI task. Okay, so the goal was to use a state-of-the-art models, as the slide that I showed you. These language models, they're super powerful, and they are basically they are improving significantly over time. So for us, the goal was to basically take those models, leverage those models, and build a neural agent assistant. So basically like a virtual, or like we don't call it virtual because it's like we call it agent assistant, because the agent it's a virtual agent that helps the human agent. So for different tasks, like these are common tasks that chatbots are built to do, like, an intent, and a query comes into the agent to identify the intent behind the query. Basically, like there's a knowledge base. So based on a given query, you can go to the knowledge base and retrieve the related context. And at the end, to generate a response which is very close to, which looks like a real human response. So we had this project, and it has been published at EMNLP. Now, over the next few slides, I want to walk you through the back end of the framework, the agent, the work that we've done, and I would like to share the outcomes and the lessons that we learned. Okay, so our contribution basically for this collaboration project was twofold. First, we were able to do an open source contribution. We call it Neural Agent Assistant, which is based on the state-of-the-art neural architectures. And then we were able to bridge the gap between the emerging NLP techniques and real world needs. So the framework that we built, we were able to transfer it to 3 industry partners, and they were able to build use cases in their own company based on the framework. So we were able to see the adoption of this framework across 3 sectors and use cases. Okay, so as I said, like this is the, just give me a second. I want to see. if I can annotate. Never mind. So this is our agent. And as I said, the query comes to the agent, and the agent is able to do 3 different tasks. Do intent identification, context retrieval, and response generation. So this is the back end of the agent, and I will walk you through each of these components. Okay, the first component is about intent identification. So in the dialogue modeling and conversational agent modeling, the intent identification means being able to basically identify the intent behind a query. And from an ML perspective, it's just a multi classification task. So an intent comes, so you're able to assign it to some of the predefined classes. So just as an example, like this is one of the most common data sets, benchmarking data set that is used for intent identification. For example, this is for banking. As you see, like, you know, this query comes from a customer, like, I'm starting to think my card is lost because it still hasn't arrived. Can you help? So it's one of the very basic and most commonly used application of any chatbot or conversational AI agent, just to find about the intent behind this query. So basically, like, you know, for example, the intent is card arrival, or like, where do I link the new card linking. So think about it this way, that I'm a human agent, and there is a machine next to me that can classify the intents for me. So instead of going through the query myself, I can find about the intent, and I can go and fetch or retrieve some information from a knowledge base. So this is the very basic and still very important task. So for our implementation, so I don't want to spend too much on this, but happy to answer any questions that you might have at the end. So we used the BERT model, and basically we trained our model on some of the benchmarking data set related to banking. And this is like the reference implementations. This is a reference implementation that we provided to our sponsor, to our industry partners on this. And then, you know, they were able to take it from us and take it home, and then do their own process. So we try to use it in a 1-shot and 5-shot, few-shot setting, just to see like how it can generalize from one domain to the other. The second task that we did was context retrieval. Again, this is like, it's an important task, because most of the times for the agent, there is a knowledge base, and based on a given query, the agent, what has to do is like to go and find the similar context for example, it could be like retrieve a passage or a context from a given knowledge base. And it's a very compute intensive task, because sometimes the knowledge base could be in 100 pages. It could be the entire Wikipedia. So for most of the time, so kind of the retriever system based, you know, are always used. And this is what we wanted to include on our agent assistant. So for example, like, you know, the question is like, this question comes from a user, like, what's the corporation? And this is the knowledge base. For example, I just oh, it's not here, sorry, I copy pasted it somewhere, I can't find it, never mind. So if you go to this page, you can see, like, you know, it's a 1-page long information about the corporation, and then basically, like, this is the related passage, the exact passage in that page. Think about it like a Wikipedia page. So what the context retrieval does is, like, it goes and retrieves the passage which is related to a given query. And this is just an example we got from MS Marco. So it's a 2-step process. So usually, like, what you do first is you retrieve some candidates context. So let's say 5 or 10, and then you can use a re-ranker to re-rank them, and you can provide the top 2 to your agent. So here we use the bioencoders and encoders again, based on the BERT model, and we fine-tune them on MS Marco, which is like it's a question answering data set. Basically, it has the triplets of question, related passage, actually like the knowledge base, related passage, and the answer. So, and then we fine tuned it on other data sets like ELI5. So I saw some hands up, so let me finish, and then I can basically, I'm happy to answer questions at the very end. So there is this so this actually, like these are some of the results that I wanted to share with you. Basically, what you can the message from this table is that, like, it shows, okay, you basically you go and get a pre-trained context retrieval model. So basically, it could be like, okay, there's a domain agnostic context retrieval model. So can I use it for my own product? Or you go and get those pre-trained and you further fine-tune them on your own data set. And then, and here we show that, okay, if you fine-tune the models, the performance will improve. And this is go back to my earlier comment in the first few slides, that design with intention is highly required. So the last component or module for our neural agent assistant is to generate a natural language response using retrieved passages from context retrieval. Basically, like, this is the ultimate goal of any chatbots, to being, to provide fluent responses that looks like human responses. So basically, like, again, like, this is from MS Marco. I told you that it has, like, there's a question, there's a knowledge base, this is the related passage. So context retrieval could act as a question answering. You can go and retrieve the related passage, but it doesn't look like a human response. So in a NLP domain, we call it, this is like extractive summarization, and this generating human like response is an abstractive summarization. Basically, you can provide, you can summarize the response and make it look like a human response. So this is what we added as the final, as the last component of our neural agent assistant. And the way it works is that it takes the question, it takes the related passage that comes from the context retrieval part, and then it provides, it generates a human-like response in an autoregressive way. And we use GPT, which is the back end of the chat GPT here. Oh, actually, like, these are the knowledge base that I just mentioned for the context retrieval. So that passage was extracted from this page, just as example. And this is the response. This is some of the results that we got for the response generation. So basically, what we're trying to show here is we used basically GPT-2 models. We trained them on MS Marco, and then we tested them on ELI5. So basically, like, these are the MS Marco, the first 3 rows, actually the first 2 rows show the GPT, which has been trained on MS Marco, and then they've been tested on MS Marco. This is just a dialogue GPT, and the last one is a GPT which has been trained on MS Marco, but like, it was tested on a different data set. And as you see, that the performance significantly decreased. So it really matters, further fine-tuning a model on a very task-specific and domain-specific data set. So this is like so basically what we did after the first basically the first phase of this project was for us to build the neural agent assistant framework and have reference implementations for this framework. And then we had 3 sponsors working very closely with us, and they tried to implement this neural agent assistant for their own use cases. So mindful of time, I know that we are over time, so I skipped these. The specifics of the use cases, but like, you know, just to summarize the lessons that we learned throughout this practice was, once you fine tune the model, so make the model to be more domain and task specific, they work much better. And this is something that we found through our experiments, and also what our industry partners told us, because our industry partners, they took our framework and they further fine-tuned based on their domain. For example, for one of them who worked on legal documents, they fine-tuned them on legal documents. So this is what has been concluded by us throughout the experiment. The other thing is that so finding a good performance metrics is very important, mainly for the response generation. So once you have humans like responses, all of the metrics that are available, you can try them, but it's really based on your use case. You should come up with a metric that matters to your own company and needs. And then the third one is the efficiency and optimization. These models are expensive, are large. GPT-2 is pretty large, so it's still smaller than GPT-3 and the OPT and all these recent large language models. Even with GPT-2, you know, the compute was very expensive. So it's all like, you know, it's a trade-off between efficiency and optimization. And at the end, we found this collaborative approach worked pretty well, because in research and academia, we built frameworks and we learned a lot. We were able to debug our framework and, you know, to do further troubleshooting, while once our industry partners, you know, started to adopt these frameworks for their own use cases. So I pause here. Yeah, happy to answer any questions, or like if we are short in time, what I can do is I can chat. I can respond on the chat. Please advise me. How do you want me to, should I take answers now, or should I leave?
No, I think we'll take it on the chat, Elham.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Elham, for this real-life connected technical presentation, because we all know what is it like to talk to a chatbot. So keep up the good work. We will now be moving into a fireside chat conducted by Kathy with the UNICEF Youth Ambassador Alicia Arora. Kathy is the National Marketing Lead for Women in AI Canada. She is a PhD student in medical biophysics at University of Toronto. She is working on developing an AI pipeline for interventional cardiovascular risk stratification. So over to you, Kathy.
Thanks for that introduction. And Alicia is an ambitious 16-year-old on a mission to leverage technology for good. Alicia serves as a UNICEF Youth Ambassador for AI and mental health. She is currently working towards detecting suicidal ideation in social media content to prevent suicide with the support of Microsoft. She serves as the youngest researcher at MIT's AI lab and was the youngest intern at P&G. As an ardent philanthropist, she founded her own nonprofit organization, the Hope Sisters. Her leadership has led her to win the prestigious Princess Diana Award and work with Prince Harry to launch the Child Digital Rights Strategy for the world. Alicia, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here. You have extraordinary talent and achievements at such a young age. What motivated you to pursue a career in AI?
Well, thank you so much, Kathy, and thank you to Women in AI for having me. It's an absolute honor. And that's a great question. And I think There are many ways I can go about answering this question, but I think for me, like a lot of us see AI as a tool for, making our lives more efficient, or, I think right now the ways in which we're using AI are, detecting frauds or doing more like work related and corporate stuff. But I think for me, how I really got involved into AI was I really saw it as a force for good. And for me, I sort of began my AI journey because I wanted to combat mental health problems. And specifically, after losing a classmate of mine to suicide, I wanted to take some action. And I really saw that AI and technology in general as sort of a way to do that. And so for me, when I first learned about AI, I knew nothing about it, but I really saw the applications of where it could be used for good. And so from there, I was really motivated to build out a model to detect suicidal ideation in social media content, because the classmate of mine actually posted about feeling lonely a few minutes before he took his own life. And for me, that was really a wake-up call. So I really wanted to do something about it. And as a young person, I realized that I couldn't wait for corporations and governments to make the change that I wanted to see. And if I really wanted to see a difference in the world, then I had to make it myself. And so I took the time to learn about AI. And while it was a really difficult journey, ever since then, I've been on the works of building out a model to detect suicidal ideation and support with Microsoft. And I'm currently going through the patent process and beta testing, and hopefully a model like mine and a model like this. And honestly, if we have more young people together working on using AI for good, that we can just see a better world where we're tackling global issues. So yes, that's really what motivated me to get into AI, because I really saw the applications of it to be a tool for good.
Awesome. That's an inspiring and touching story. And that's great that your model is being patented right now. So you've also founded a nonprofit called the Hope Sisters. Could you tell us a bit more about the organization and its mission?
Yeah, for sure. So with my sister together, we're the Hope Sisters. And really this started in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, when we realized that it's just a time where everyone has lost a lot of hope, and especially for young people. So when we looked at children in foster care, if my sister or I ever needed something, like we wanted a snack or we wanted to go get a toy or something to play with, we could instantly just, bug our parents in the middle of the night and they get it for us. But it wasn't the same for children in foster care who didn't have those same opportunities. And also we looked into the demographic of seniors who were just lonely during this time. So that's really when we came together to say that we wanted to do something different and spread some hope during these dark times. So we started a few initiatives, like writing cards to seniors called Hope Cards. And we wrote together over 1,000 cards in just 2 nights and gave them out to seniors in retirement and long-term care homes. And then we also got together a bunch of youth volunteers to make bags of hope called Hope Bags, filled with toys and snacks and fun items for children in foster care. And from there, just 2 small initiatives, they really spread to a whole movement of spreading hope, where we now have 50 hope chapters across the world, where we talk about and we have different youth representatives who are working on issues that they're passionate about. And then for us, we also have together over 5,000 hope spreaders who are just, in our movement to spread hope. And of that now, we're starting to work on so many initiatives to spread hope, like Hope Mail. And also we held a Hope Parade during the holiday season to just spread some holiday cheer. Really, when, I think there's so many times where we all can just be and lose hope. And I think it's just so important that there's small initiatives and things to do that we can really uplift our neighbors or our family members, our people we know spirits. So that's kind of what the Hope Sisters is. It's just our organization to spread hope. So yeah.
Wow, that's awesome that you have so many initiatives, and it's such a great platform for the community as well. So kudos to you for building that. And moving on to some of your more industry experience, as an MIT researcher and the youngest intern at P&G, would you be able to share for our viewers how you landed such opportunities this early, and also tell us a bit more about the different projects that you worked on there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, in the 2 experiences I've had, I served as a research assistant at MIT's AI lab, where I got to work on I got to work on leveraging AI to detect like mental illnesses biologically, because mental illnesses do have a biological correlation. So that was a really interesting experience for me. And really my motivation behind even just searching for an opportunity like this was really my initial stage of getting into AI. And I had no idea where to go about learning how to build models. You know, I did the courses online and I read a few books and I started to program a little bit, but I didn't really know how to take those tools and actually apply them. And so for me, I think it's just so important that there's opportunities like research or like learning from your mentors, because I think like that experience for me was so pivotal to just learn about how do I actually go about building models as a 14-year-old at that time. And so I initially reached out to a professor who I was really looking into his research about AI and mental illness. And I just reached out saying, I would love to get involved in any way, if it was at all possible. And from there, I really got the opportunity to not just learn, but also make an impact in the field of AI. And I think that experience for me was so pivotal because it really got me to be hands-on and really learn more about what AI really is and how do I actually go about building something like that. And then from there, last year, I actually did an internship at Procter & Gamble, and that wasn't so connected to AI, but it really was, I'd say, life-changing in just sort of getting my foot into the corporate door and learning about how corporations work. And, you know, aside from mental health, something else I'm really passionate about is female care. And so I got to actually work on developing the Always You app, which was a period tracking app. And I got to, you know, in my role and my experience as a Gen Z consumer, I got to really work and build the app as to what do Gen Z users really want. And so this was like, I think both those experiences for me were really life-changing. And I think really it was just about getting my foot in the door. So all these opportunities, like I went out and asked for myself because I really wanted these experiences. And I think from there, you know, first getting that role at MIT, it really gave me experience. Oh, how do I work on a team? How do I actually collaborate? How do I, you know, go about, you know, when I'm stuck in a problem, how do I have and develop that figure it out mindset? And so really those experiences and those small things that I learned from each of those roles have been really something that I'm going to hold on to and that I can really pass on as I continue to grow.
I love how you took the courage to take that first step forward and message the professor. That's awesome. So a little bit more about you're also involved in the community through UNICEF as a youth ambassador. Could you share your contributions in this role and your experience launching Children's Rights Strategy with Prince Harry?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So really, when I got started in my mental health and AI work, and specifically my model, I also sort of got involved with UNICEF and their AI advocacy work. And it's surprising for me that there's not much representation in that area, because as we know, with like the new advances with ChatGPT, with other new advances of AI, that our world is changing. We're really in a time with like new technological advances that are affecting young people and in ways that we don't know. And specifically, if we even just look at social media and how much of a large impact that has on young people's and my life, I think it's so important that when we talk about children's rights, we also think about children's rights as in this technological world. And so that was really like my contribution in the UNICEF space, really working. So I got the opportunity to work with the Scottish government on their AI for children policy, and also the Dubai government on their AI and toy ethics. And I think the intersection of AI and ethics is something that is a very unrepresented space, especially by young people. I mean, when I think about it, it's like we have governments and corporations representing the voices of youth, but we don't even have youth at that table. And I think that is just something that's not okay. And so for me, when I got to work with Prince Harry to launch the Children's Rights Strategy, that was really the strategy for the world, the digital rights strategy, saying that these are the rights that young people have when they're online. And they, you know, these are the boundaries and restraints young people need so that they're aware of how the world is changing around them and how AI is sometimes controlling or using their lives. And I think it's so important that young people are educated in this space because digital literacy is so important. So I think like it's really been an honor for me to represent young people and represent my peers in this space, because AI literacy and AI advocacy is something that's so crucial and so needed for young people. Yeah.
Nice. I love that they're starting to incorporate younger people in in these conversations. And I think we have time for just one more question. Are there any other projects or initiatives that you're currently working on that you look forward to in 2023?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And I mean, obviously, aside from my AI and suicidal ideation project, which is now just being beta tested and going through the patent process, and hopefully from there, get to work on I get to work on implementing this project in real life and in real social media platforms. So that is one of the big priorities for this year. But as I mentioned, I'm really also interested in the female care space, and hopefully going to be doing some research in the fertility research area, because that's also something I'm really passionate about, and really exploring applications of AI in that as well. And I think something that's so exciting about AI is that, the applications are endless, and it's really just where can we use it and where does it fit in? And so I think it's for me, it's just kind of exploring ways of implementing and using technology as a force for good. And I think if there are any young people listening, the only thing I'd want to say is if you really find something that you're purposeful about, and you can use and you can see technology as a way of solving that, because there usually is a way technology can make an impact. It's so important that you just you put your foot forward, because we really can't be waiting for other people to make the change we want to see. It really has to be us if we want to be seeing change. So yes, that's what I'd say.
Awesome. Thanks, Alicia, and thanks for your time here today. And I hope any of our younger viewers can take some inspiration from you.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Hopefully you can hear me. Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Alicia, for the inspiring chat. It's amazing to see the passion you bring not only to the AI community, but to the world. So thank you so much. I'm Yvonne Wardell, and I'm really excited to be here with you today. I am the engagement lead for Women in AI. I joined last year after hearing a technical talk about explainable AI, and I knew I wanted to be part of this community of smart technical women who empower other women. I'm joining today from Calgary, and I work here as a data scientist in oil and gas. And my own personal interests in AI lie in building recommender systems to help people make decisions that are aligned with their personal values. So I am really excited about our next topic and our next speaker. It is my pleasure to introduce Sahir. Sahir is a machine learning scientist with Amy. He helps find solutions to AI questions, and his work bridges the gap between AI research and industry. He has a master's degree in computing science from the University of Alberta, and his thesis was focused on inter-agent teaching in a deep reinforcement learning setting. He's also worked as a data scientist for IBM and Unilever, and today he will be talking about the inner workings of InstructGPT and ChatGPT, along with the pitfalls that come with these models. Thank you so much, and welcome, Sahir.
Thanks, Yvonne. It's a pleasure to be hosted by Women in AI. All right, let me just kickstart. I hope sounds great. All righty, so today we're going to be talking pretty much about InstructGPT and ChatGPT. Like we know, it's a lot in the news everywhere. Like what exactly is ChatGPT doing? Let's just dive deeper into the nuts and bolts. So before we do that, thanks for the introduction. I'm just going to pass in my email address. I also do research on the side, specifically in reinforcement learning. So if you need any help or you want to collaborate or you're doing some amazing RL stuff, feel free to reach out to me. That's my email address. Cool. So with that, let's get started. First of all, we're going to, in the agenda, cover ChatGPT itself, an overview, and some of the use cases and impacts that it's creating in our labs. Then we're going to take a step back into machine learning, the types of machine learning. So a quick overview, if you don't really know, on the two types specifically, reinforcement learning and supervised learning, and a bit step up from reinforcement learning from human feedback. And then we're going to dive deeper into what ChatGPT does and how it's trained, and some similarities and differences between InstructGPT and ChatGPT. And then we're going to move towards pitfalls that we need to take care of or be aware of some takeaways, and at the end, the question answer session. Alrighty, so with that, let's get started. So what generally, it's a very long history that I probably would not like to cover in terms of chatbot. We've seen this for over decades, but OpenAI recently made accessible the ChatGPT, and we have seen it grow in a matter of 5 days to 1 million users compared to other social media platforms. That's just amazing, and it's all because it was made accessible as a product by OpenAI. So essentially, it is a large language model, just like BERT, but here the differences kind of align when we combine reinforcement learning and supervising, and that's the overlap or intersection that I'm really interested about. And not to mention, we know that it's pretty human-like in terms of responses. So fine-tuning can get you there, but with reinforcement learning, it's so close to human that it can't really distinguish the difference. Cool. So some question answers, in terms of use cases. On the right, I've asked some questions to ChatGPT itself, so more of a comprehensive answer on the right. And on the left, around the use cases that ChatGPT is enabling. So as we all know, it's a really good question answering machine, and it's a little verbose, biased towards very verbose responses. We're going to come to that in the later part of the video, of the presentation, towards the pitfalls. Other than that, question answers, it can also be used as a guide for generating code or understanding code. So for beginners, I think it's a really interesting tool. And some of the extensions that have been built on top of ChatGPT, the 3 listed here from the top are Chrome extensions. So generating video summaries, let's say from YouTube, TweetGPT allowing you to write tweets and replies for you, ChatGPT Writer allowing you to write emails and messages, and CodeGPT is a Visual Studio extension that you can use to refactor, generate, and explain code. So a lot of different use cases coming in, and I believe with the Microsoft partnership with OpenAI, I think we're going to see more of that being played out in the future. Cool. All righty. So some more examples. This is one of the things I try to test with OpenAI. Luckily, I was not prompted with a capacity error. And on the left, we see, like, if you were starting out, let's say on ML, and you just want to see how it looks like training an ML model, it gives you the whole verbose step-by-step description. And also at the end, it gives you a code. And towards the right, it's more of a general question. Like, let's say I want to write an email to a client that, hey, we get a signed agreement in 7 days. And it comes up with a whole template that you just have to replace your names to and from, and you're good to go. So it saves you minutes of your time writing an email, for example. Cool. So we've seen like an overview of what ChatGPT is, some of the applications, but how exactly it's working. That's the main key takeaway I want this session for you guys to take away. So we're going to start with machine learning. So the text format definition of ML is that it's a subfield of AI, artificial intelligence. Pretty much involves around finding patterns in data. Let's say when you're talking about thousands of data points where humans can't do that manually, machine learning comes into play, and it's all about finding patterns in the data so that you can make predictions, meaningful predictions out of it. So there are actually 4 types of machine learning. We're going to cover just the tail ends of the types today. So the supervised learning and the reinforcement learning. But just to quickly go through, supervised learning is all about that you have labeled data and you're making predictions. Semi-supervised learning is when you have both labeled and unlabeled and you have to play around in predictions. Unsupervised is more about finding patterns in the data and you don't know the label. And reinforcement learning is figuring out how to actually act in an environment. So learning from trial and error will be one example. Cool. So let's start with supervised learning. So this is a pretty famous picture that's coming in from all program tutorials. And on the top side of the picture is pretty much the training part. So given, let's say, text, documents, images, whatever, or tabular data, whatever kind of format you're using, so you have multiple of them, let's say rows or multiple data points, then you apply some feature engineering processing, and then you get feature vectors. It doesn't have to be 1D, it could be multidimensional, and then you feed that into the machine learning algorithm along with the labels for each of the examples or rows. And in the test time, it's going to be the same, but it's going to be with new data. You're going to convert it into feature vectors, you predict, and then you're going to evaluate with respect to whatever metric accuracy you have from whatever you're most care about. So the two types specifically is classification and regression. Classification supervised learning is pretty much about predicting a label. Let's say you want to predict cancer from given images, or let's say given a background, you want to predict if a person will default on a loan. That's predicting class or a label. So that's classification. Regression is another type where you're predicting a number. So for example, house prices, temperature, those will be the examples of regression. So that's supervised learning, and then supervised fine-tuning is pretty much, I'm going to come to that later, but it's more about you have a model and then you just come up with a new data set and you fine-tune your model. Pretty much extended supervised learning, you can say. So with that, let's move into reinforcement learning. I see a couple of chat pop up. I will take that, I guess, if there are questions at the end. So reinforcement learning in a nutshell is about taking actions. Let's say you're in the environment, you're trying to figure out what's good and what's bad. So you're trying to maximize a reward that tells you what actions are good and then what actions are bad. So given certain states, you take action, and your task is to maximize the reward, the overall reward. So from Rich's book, as simple as this, an agent trying to interact with the environment. So given a state ST, an agent tries to take an action AT, an environment then takes that action, shows the new state ST plus 1 and the reward for that. And then that reward in the state is then used by the agent continually over time, and then that's how it learns, and that's how it gets better. So extending this framework, RLHF, so it's pretty similar to RL, but here the reward part is kind of disintegrated from the environment. And so what happens here with RLHF is you have a human labeler or human demonstrator that tells you the difference. So the human is provided with, let's say, 2 example behaviors, and then the human has to kind of pick which one is better. So that is then fed into the reward predictor, which is another model that's being trained on the fly, and that tells us the predicted reward that's used by the RL algorithm or RL agent. So both are learning on the fly, the RL algorithm, the agent, and the reward predictor. They're both learning together, and that's how this is kind of decoupled from the environment, and a human actually focus on the reward side of things. Cool. So with that, how does it all combine together into ChatGPT and InstructGPT? So GPT, as we might know, stands for generative pre-trained transformer. Generative being generative part of machine learning models. Pre-trained is a model that's already trained on a big corpora. Transformer on the right, you'll see the 2017 paper, attention is all you need. Transformer models coming in from attention side of things. So ChatGPT and InstructGPT, they use a large language model. ChatGPT is built on GPT 3.5, InstructGPT over GPT 3. They both use supervised fine-tuning with RLHF. We're going to go through that in a bit of detail. Trained over terabytes of data. GPT-3 was trained on 300 billion tokens. And there are multiple versions of InstructGPT. So there's 1.3 billion parameters, 6 billion parameters, 175 billion parameters. And just to kind of give a contrast, I think a human brain has roughly around 80 to 90 billion neurons. So kind of to give an extent of how big these parameters or these models are. 1.3 billion InstructGPT was shown to perform better, as in was prefer better from humans compared to 165 billion GPT-3 output. And InstructGPT was 25% less toxic in its outputs versus GPT-3. So that's some of the things that OpenAI is incrementally developing and making better. Cool. So how does it all work? You might have seen this from the website, and I think it's pretty evident. I think it's an easy way to go through this. So on the left side, step 1, what happens is they have the data set that they sample the prompts And then a labeler, a human, for example, will demonstrate the desired behavior. So this particular data set is then used to fine tune the supervised learning model GPT 3.5. That's another addition on top of GPT 3. And then that's called SFT, supervised fine tuning. And then on the second step, what happens is, given the model, we sample several prompts, and then the labeler is going to rank between all of those, and then that's going to be used to train the reward model. And then on the third step, that reward model is going to be then used to train the RL model, PPO being proximal policy optimization algorithm in RL. A new prompt is sampled from the data set, PPO does its thing, it produces an output, reward model evaluates that output, and then that reward is then used to filter back and update the reinforcement learning policy from PPO. And that's iterative over time. So that's the whole setup. So it's supervised fine tuning plus human in the loop RLHF going on, which really seals the deal. It's not just that it's performing really accurately, but it's now more closer to how humans would look like, or how humans would like the outputs to be. And in terms of InstructGPT, if you go over the website, it's pretty similar. Instead, just define differences around GPT-3, and ChatGPT was 3.5, but majorly the training process is the same. So I'm gonna skip over this. So you might want to say, like, what are the differences then? So majorly the training was the same, but the data collection part was a little different. ChatGPT used additional dialogue-driven data from the humans, and then top of InstructGPT. So it's built on top of the previously built InstructGPT data set. And the other thing that's shining spotlight is that they made it available and accessible to the public. So nobody knows what InstructGPT, or if people do, they're mostly researchers, right? So the main spotlight was making it accessible for us to play around. Cool. With that, I think it's important to kind of look into pitfalls like that comes with dealing with these models, and it's important to look at. So one of the key important areas that OpenAI is working, it's called alignment text, as they call it. So they're trying to make InstructGPT and ChatGPT, well, not ChatGPT, more safe to use, so less toxic, less inaccurate, and ChatGPT has done some measures, has taken some measures to reduce that problem, but it still suffers from it. So sometimes still produces toxic comments or incorrect information. So that's some of the things to be looked at. Biases in the data can come in from the training data, the corpus itself, and the part where we're labeling from the human. So those two side of things can include biases, and especially from English speakers, because the labeling part was done with English. So that's one of the things. And then one of the things that's kind of unavoidable is the training data could have their own biases. So that's one of the things also to look into. And ethical use, I think this goes back into the news. We saw that ChatGPT passed the MBA and the medical exam licenses. So we need to kind of reevaluate our exam methodologies and our use of these tools. So it's kind of both towards both ends. So limiting kind of the use of these technologies in the exam rooms, and or reevaluating our exam methodologies so that it looks for the things that it should be looking for. Cool. And with that, the final part of the slides is the takeaways. So as we've seen, large language models are a huge success. Everybody's talking about ChatGPT, BERT, all of that. And we've seen supervised fine-tuning being showing promise in terms of performance. You take a pre-trained model, you supervise, you do SFL, supervised fine-tuning on your particular data set, align it with your specific use case. But I think with RLHF, they've taken a step further, and now it looks more human-like. And the key is they've made it accessible. And I hope to see this being implemented or being brought over into our daily applications, our apps, our daily use cases. And that's going to be the key that drives the AI electricity or AI adoption for us. And then with that, I think that's the end of my slides, and I'll open the floor for questions.
I don't know, do we have time for one question? Yeah, let's do one question.
The link, okay, sure. I'll post that right after I conclude. Yeah, it's just a news that ChatGPT passed MBA exams, medical licenses, even the Turing test. So it's just a news article that I used.
Also, feel free to ask your questions in the lobby chat. Thank you so much,
slides, I think.
Oh,
yeah, no worries. For the slides, I believe that's your department. So if there are any more chat, feel free to reach out, email, or type it in chat. I'll be happy to take care of it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tahir. I was actually one of those million users from like day one. So I use ChatGPT quite a bit. So it was really illuminating to hear and learn about it and especially understand the pitfalls. So thank you. And so we have our panel discussion next, and it is a topic that is really relevant and crucial to understand these days. The topic is evolution and impact of artificial intelligence in industry, academia, and startups, and its impact on the job market. The panel discussion will be moderated by Sina Bu. We've had a chance to meet Sina Bu earlier. She's the Montreal City Lead with Women in AI, and she's a software engineer with Sama. Welcome, Sina Bu, and thank you for moderating this important discussion.
Thank you for the introduction, Yvonne. And yeah, so as Yvonne mentioned, I'm the city lead for Montreal for Women in AI. I've been part of the founding team members of Women in AI Canada. And yeah, I'm super happy to be moderating this panel. The topics we're going to discuss today are the direction in which AI is going, its impact from the perspective of different industries, challenges faced with recruiting the right talent, the evolution of the job market, skills that emerging talent should focus on, as well as finally, like how institutions could support and prepare the next generations for changes in the job market. And to introduce our panelists, we have Joan Vlachard, who's a manager of data science at Alta ML, which is a company that elevates businesses through AI. We also have Amber Roberts, who's an ML engineer at Arise AI, which is an ML observability company. We also have Holly Hagelin, who's an associate vice president of enterprise data science and machine learning at TD Bank, as well as an instructor at Yale University School of Continuing Studies. And last but not least, we have Yonka Coppens, who's associate vice president of AI and advanced analytics at ATV Financials, which is Alberta's largest financial, like a homegrown financial institution. All right, so to start off with the topic of AI, the future of AI, the thing that's interesting about our panelists is they have different backgrounds and work in different industries. So I'd really love to hear about where you think AI is going and essentially in your respective industries, what advancements have had the most significant impact in your opinion? So maybe 2 minutes each. Holly, do you want to start?
For sure. Thank you. And yeah, very excited to be here. So advancements wise, I think what I've seen in my time anyway, there's been a lot of advancements on methodologies and techniques. Of course, many people have heard of XGBoost and FBProfit. Machine learning isn't a new area, but some of the models are, and these two are actually used quite extensively within the bank. And they brought significant confidence in the results. There's widespread deployment of ML, and we have a lot of confidence in what we can build with it. But I would say that actually my comments would be mostly around the operational and organizational vectors that have been very impactful. So, we've been on quite a journey, as I'm sure many other organizations have been, from distributed delivery, which is just kind of by design, it's embedded in the business. And we've moved to kind of a greater sophistication that comes with consolidating your specialized resources, whether it's federated or central. That consolidation brings a lot of efficiency. So Yeah, and with this centralization, you can introduce best practices such as agile, which we're big on in technical product. And I think migration to the cloud, which could probably have a whole seminar in and of itself, but we're seeing a lot of advancement there as well.
All right, thank you. Bianca, do you want to add on?
Sure, I can go next. And, I mean, I would say a couple of similar themes, and maybe it's because we're in the same industry or have the very similar roles, I would say, in said industry. But for us, it's really interesting in terms of the growing maturity of the business of AI itself. I mean, every facet right now is maturing at an exponential rate, I would say. So for instance, on one hand, when you think about the technical capabilities, they're rapidly advancing. Like if you even think, I mean, some of what's been dropped in the last month, I would say, what I mean, it's a little mind boggling in terms of applications. And in terms of, I mean, generating predictions, we can do it at a much greater pace than we ever could have before. And then at the same time, like Holly was saying, you have the delivery model that's evolving. I know we ourselves made up a lot of changes just in the last year in terms of how we work and how we bring about our products. So we're seeing ecosystems around AI development now, and they're reaching far into the business. I mean, you do have citizen or federated data scientists, you've got areas of expertise. I mean, we're bringing in partners that we're working very closely with as well, in terms of some out of the box AI capabilities where you don't want to necessarily build it yourself and it's not a differentiator for yourself. So this convergence of technology advancing rapidly combined with the advancement of how we work is actually an extremely exciting time. We're able to unearth and act upon more transformational change than ever before. I mean, we're transforming some of the oldest processes that we've dealt with.
Right. Well, yeah, that's very good. June, do you want to follow?
Absolutely. Thank you. I have two takes on this. The first one is quite broad, and I'm just so amazed to see the transformation of AI from just very narrow intelligence, like a single purpose, kind of infant level compared to a human in say 2016, to this artificial general intelligence more advancing in multiple fields, right? In reasoning, problem solving, abstract thinking, more thinking like an adult in 2020. That was just 4 years. And this, in part, I think, is due to this frenzy of hiring during the pandemic and the push to accelerate solutions. There was this real need and push combined with both competition and global collaboration that brought on a host of efficient solutions. This benefited large players and startups, the open source community, and this is really what's gotten us to the current level we're at. But now in the last few weeks and months, maybe the audience feels like me, seeing these large resizings in terms of large layoffs in the 10 to 25% of a company pauses in funding. It's concerning, but I'm not worried. I see this as right sizing of the industry from a huge increase to just getting it a little bit less frenzied and more thoughtful and mature. I still think this is technology is a huge area of growth and potential. It's just pivoting and maturing. And if we look at, a specific example of recent AI advancements, like our chatty, poem authoring, meal planning, resume writing, chat GPT, right? Or some derivative or future version of that, it's trained on billions of pieces of information and RL techniques. It gains us benefits in efficiency. I mean, it can be disruptive in education. We'll see. It could be as disruptive as a calculator or having a spell checker or a search engine were. And in our own ML development work ourselves, we'll see some improvements through that. But I'd like to stress that it's not the only solution, and it's certainly not the final solution, ChatGPT, but it has moved the bar in terms of conversation and literacy and adoption of AI. And that's brought renewed hype, new excitement and investment into the industry. And I see that as quite a good thing. If I look at my own personal position, spatial data science is where I'm sitting, and I've just seen a huge change from the beginning of my career to now. And most of the barriers in terms of data access, analysis, specialization. It's gone from a privileged few with expensive software and hardware, limited scope of experiments, to now a very, very open market in terms of access to everyone. I don't even think I could have dreamed of this open source solutions in the space Earth observation space, but it is exciting. I can't wait to see what happens in the upcoming months and days and years globally. So yeah, pretty exciting. Thanks.
All right, thank you, June. Amber?
Right, so I guess in terms of most impactful advancements, I started in the field when data science was first becoming a role, wasn't even a major or something you can, wasn't even something you could get a degree in, essentially. And now, having been in the field a while, it's now not just about building a model that can do something, it's about managing it in production. And so the whole area of ML ops, I see getting larger and larger, especially being able to maintain infrastructure. So building the model, thinking about, is this fair? Is this going to drift in production? Am I maintaining it? And then how do I deal with all the volume and the scale that we're now dealing with? So I think the most impactful advancements for me have been going from, okay, make a model do something, to, okay, it's doing it. How do we make sure that it's doing it the right way, and that we can get kind of observability into what it's doing?
That's great, thank you. And maybe to follow up, what are the most promising, exciting applications of AI that you see in the horizon? I know June is really excited to see how it's going to affect the whole accessibility of spatial data, for example. But can you all share something as well?
Yeah, I can go ahead because Amber, you said something that kind of made me start thinking about this whole, idea of ML ops and everything and the sophistication that's coming with that. And of course, there's just a lot of challenges ahead with that. I think when we always love, I'm coming from a banking perspective, so obviously it's tempered with sort of what we can do in our environment, but the talk of real-time modeling is always there. It's just really difficult to support, having the operations to be able to do that. And then, getting neural networks more widespread use and applications within the bank, reinforcement learning, these things have been around a long time, but they're actually still not widely used. And then you think about quantum computing, which is definitely not going to be used for a while. So I think there's way more exciting applications out there, but really the sophistication will be commensurate with our ability to support the implementation at the end of the day. Especially within a banking context, I think your ability to make effective decisions is really important. So if you can't make an effective decision in real time, there's probably no need to have real-time insights. And I could elaborate for days. This is a discussion that goes on, but I think lots of exciting applications out there, but we need to figure out how to use them.
Thank you. Great. Amber, Yanka?
Yeah. And so, I guess just tagging on to that, I think part of the responsible AI kind of movement that we're seeing, and what we're seeing in other countries now that they're making laws around the protection of their data, the fairness of their models, overall AI governance. I think we're going to see that more and more, not just as, having ML ops infrastructure in play, having this observability into your model. It's not going to be like a luxury anymore. It's going to start being required, and there's going to be a lot more restrictions on data. So I think that's the way it's moving. And the more we educate ourselves and the more we practice best data practices in general, I think that's just going to help our ML models that we're building move forward, because there's just going to be more governance around that, I see, moving forward. Yanka?
That's right.
For time, I guess I can throw a comment in. In terms of, I guess, a couple of things that are really exciting, the ATB team would be large language networks and the explosion of business opportunities for applied transfer learning. So, we've been limited by availability of high quality data in the past, and the reality is working with said data. And, I mean, they've definitely proved to be massive barriers to some applications in machine learning. So recent advances in those two spaces has us really excited right now because it just opens up a wealth of opportunity.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Yonka. All right, let's move on to the next topic. I'm going to try to be mindful of the time. So June touched up on the topic of the current layoffs that are happening, like how the wave kind of shifted a little bit. And yeah, like everyone sees AI as something that's going to grow and impact more industries. And like this year, like recruitment was a little bit odd. And I guess I was just wondering, have your companies been affected by this in any way? And do you find challenges in finding the right talent and all? Yonka, do you want to continue?
Yeah, sure. I'll kick this off. So talent acquisition in the space has traditionally been difficult. I mean, we face challenges with the supply and demand market for sure. I would say things are alleviating a little better. And I wouldn't say because for us, the demand has gone down or the supply has necessarily gone up, but we've definitely changed our approaches to talent management and what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Amber, you raised your hand. You want to add on to that?
I accidentally pressed the raise hand. I saw raised hands were coming like from the audience. I was trying to figure out who was raising their hand. Tech is hard. So, but I think it was Joan that might have said like it's more of a correction that we're seeing. I was talking with some friends that recently like had siblings graduating and they're trying to figure out like what do I do next. It's a terrible time to get a job right now because they're laying people off, but if you notice it's always just an adjustment and it's every few years and that's just kind of how it works. And normally what I see when a lot of larger tech companies are laying off data scientists and ML engineers, a lot of startups are picking them up. It's the same base salary. They're paying the same. They just have a harder time kind of competing with all the applicants that get put into like pipelines like Google and Facebook. So I think it's a great time in the ML space, but I definitely see it move more towards the scalability skills and the infrastructure skills versus just being able to do something only with a clean data set in a Jupyter notebook. The skills are kind of changing over time. Yeah.
And that actually ties into some of the changing methodologies for us, because there's two pieces I'd like to talk on there. So one of them is, I mean, in the past, when we hired a data scientist, it felt like we were looking for a unicorn because they were a data scientist, they were a product manager, a little bit of an engineer, I mean, like they needed to do it all, right? And now we've kind of built an ecosystem around it where they can focus on their talents and their passions, right? And really focus on the areas they're interested in. And then the other piece is we've evolved our partnership. So, I mean, we don't want to build solutions and isolations at ATB. We want to have a big, diverse thought leadership and have influence of others and build our talent pipelines. And that's where some of our partners really came in handy, because as you're solving for peaks, what I mean? It's good to have those partners so you can provide stability to your workforce and build that talent pipeline. And that's our partnership with like Alta ML and their talent acquisition program has been great.
Yeah, I see Joan, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yonka. I love our partnership with ATB. It has been successful, and I would like to just explain it a little bit. Alta ML has seen that need for talent acceleration to meet the tech industry demand, and has created a few talent accelerator programs. There's one partnered with government and one partnered with private industry and academia. And the goal is to build this pipeline of trained talent using our skill set. If we look at the AI lab, we've had a 91% hire rate out of it. It is fantastic. Sometimes there's just particular circumstances, but that number is great success. For academia, this program offers competitive advantage in terms of providing students with experiential learning opportunities, expert mentorship. It strengthens our local talent pool and raises the profile of the university. For the business outcomes by this partnership is providing access to a team that's continually developing AI solutions that improve like a customer's experience or optimize service or pushes some innovation. And our lab, like as Janka mentioned, it allows the clients to continually innovate, develop solutions for the business challenges, and empowers those internal teams to have this pipeline of new talent that's trained and ready to go and aligned and consistent. And through the government, these are, you know, sometimes slower to adopt solutions just based on the bureaucracy and the mandates they have, but it brings us an opportunity to bring economic diversity and revenue into our provinces and our country. And if I could just say, I am so passionate about the role I have. I'm a technical manager within the GovLab. So that's a partnership with universities, AltaML, and government agencies. And I'm so passionate about it because sometimes it is about bringing dollar value, right? That's how you measure success. Sometimes it's in terms of dollar. But with the government, sometimes it's a value to society, you know, an improvement of life for the citizens, or it's a value to the environment and protection of what we hold dear. So I just think it's fantastic. We've made our programs inclusive, accessible to anyone. We want diversity. We want to help break down barriers to enable people to get that work experience and the training that they're missing to get employed and to do their work for good or for profit or whatever they're looking for. We've had some of our students come and employees come back again from multiple cohorts as leaders, and maybe they even become employees within AltaML or some of our clients or some of the government agencies and go on to accelerate the next set of people's careers. So just wanted to share that so much.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I'm really happy to hear that the collaboration between AltaML and ATV is going really well. And maybe to wrap it up, Holly, do you just want to talk about maybe skills that you find emerging talent should focus on in today's tech environment?
Sure. That's a great question. And yeah, I guess I would just start with the fact that, you know, from my vantage point anyway, industry is kind of hot as ever, with talent being a strategic imperative. I mean, TD employs, I think, close to 100,000 people. Data and analytics is a strategic priority for them. And I know talent is something that we invest a lot in. And, you know, within machine learning and data science domains, I'd say skilled data analytics practitioners are at a premium, and the FANG companies got hit pretty hard by economic conditions, but, you know, and because of the balance of the number of kind of engineers and scientists that they employ, it just seems like there's a lot on the market. But to the points made earlier, I think those people got picked up. I guess I'd just zero in for my main commentary on, I think, Janka, it was something you said, something about the unicorns and the data scientists and how it used to be. One of the things I've seen with maturity in my organization is we've, you know, been able to operate with a little more scale, which means you can have differentiated roles. It's been, you know, in the lead up to, I'd say, this year, we've really needed to have those unicorn skill sets. But what is going to be happening going forward is we're going to have, you know, engineering practices and machine learning science practices, and then technical product. So I would say that, you know, some of what your foundational skill set is will help determine where you might fit on that spectrum, or what type of, you know, skills that you would want to seek. But I would say, generally speaking, we always, you know, I've interviewed hundreds of people this year, and I know hundreds of, you know, many of those people are like, oh, I did these projects in computer vision and this and that, and obviously have some very deep skill sets within certain areas. I would say, you know, the things that we look for in banking, this is not maybe true across the board, but if you're thinking about these big kind of banking and insurance industries, you know, having a pretty good kind of survey within the machine learning space, a good understanding of how to apply different forecasting models and multivariate, and you know, how to use an XGBoost, which seems to come up a lot for us. And then I would say, you know, something that really doesn't get focused on a lot, but is critical focus for us in our interview process, is like having a solid GitHub with nicely written code in a discernible style, and good communication skills go a long way, all else being equal. Having a good technical foundation, of course, is like table stakes, but being able to communicate and solve a business case is still ever important for us, and features pretty heavily in our interview process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that, Holly. And maybe to continue with the topic of talent acquisition and well, recruitment, I guess I looked at all the companies' website, and I was really glad to see that each one had a concrete effort made for recruiting diverse talent. For example, with the ATB, there's a gender parity within the board of director and the leadership team, which is really impressive for such a huge financial institution. AltaML website mentions that they don't hire to fit, they hire to add. And Joan even mentioned it while talking about the program earlier. And for Arise as well, there's a diversity and inclusion by design. So I really think it's great to see that. And maybe to start off with Yonka, for ATB, was it a conscious effort to have parity within the leadership team and the board of directors?
Yeah, the answer is yes. It actually took me a while to actually find the legalities around it, but the answer is yes. So the board has been intentional about diversity since 2014 and recognizes the value to the board and the organization that having diversity brings. So because of that, they are a leader in Canada in establishing a set of policy targets intentionally to achieve the results desired without sacrificing the quality of the talent on the board and the board itself. So yes, but I would say in general at ATB, it's something we're striving for and doing well, but there's definitely opportunity for improvement. So when I look at our own team within AI and advanced analytics, you know, I mean, I crunched the math and we're looking at 35% being female represented, and then 45% of our leadership is female. So, you know what I mean? That's definitely trending in the right direction. So yeah.
Awesome, great. Yeah, I would love to basically hear more about how things are going in the different companies. But just for the sake of time, I'll just move to the next topic. But I'm really glad to see like concrete efforts being made like this by all of the companies. So thank you all. And yeah, so last topic is essentially the future with AI. Basically, we talked about the future of AI, but just wanted to focus on how we are going to grow with AI and to keep it like focus on one topic. Let's focus just on the job market and education of the next generations, because there's so many ways like our future can be affected, but just wanted to hear more on that. So I guess maybe if we start off with the financial institution size and businesses, maybe Yonka or Holly, what do you think businesses and organizations should be doing to prepare for the integration of AI and automation in the workplace?
Yeah, I mean, I can start. Yeah, I feel, you know, I have strong opinions around this, not so strong that they can't be changed, but from what I've seen develop over my tenure at TD, at least, is that I really believe that the future of AI is kind of widespread data literacy and the democratization of tools and platforms. And I know that sounds very formulaic, but you know, it used to be that your average business person could use Excel extremely proficiently, but basically you couldn't really talk to them even about top features in a you know, feature space for your models. Now, I think we're just seeing such a shift. There's such a penetration of AI and machine learning techniques and just modeling. You're seeing actually a lot of your product partners and people around the organization that know Python, and they've got a Jupyter notebook and they've maybe taken some courses. And, you know, I think there's kind of two parallel journeys, one of them being this widespread data literacy and the democratization of tools and platforms and the access to them. But then there's also this industrialization, I think, that's happening, where you've got centers, consolidation of different practices and pillars for these kind of, you know, best-in-class solutions that get productionized in your ML ops. So I just think there's an evolution, and the future really is, you know, the penetration of data literacy. And yeah, like I think you'll see business line associates be able to build simple ML models. It used to be that the MBA was the currency of the business world. I guess some people might argue it still is. I'd actually argue that many people are going back and looking to bolster their Python, their coding skills. So even if you're not going to be an ML engineer, which is a very specialized skill set, you still might be someone who's building kind of, forecasting models within your business. And like when I started at TD, it was still fairly unheard of to do a random forest model, for example, for product analytics. But at this point, like the sophistication of what we can do and the acceptance of it is amplified tenfold. So I think if you think about the job market, don't think, I have to be an engineer, I have to be a scientist. I really think that the future is AI. I really think in the future, everybody's going to have these skills. They're going to become table stakes. Knowing how to code, just having the basics and the basic data literacy will propel you somewhere within the business value.
Thank you, Holly. Yonka?
Okay, this is an area I'm actually super passionate about, and I've got a top 3 here. And like Holly, I'm pretty set in the top 3, I would say. One of them actually overlaps, so data literacy. So I'm not going to talk about that because, I think Holly did a great job. I'll only add one stat, and that basically says that typically AI initiatives fail. Data literacy is the number 2 reason. First is data quality, second is data literacy. So very, very important topic, and one that we're focusing on at ATB a fair bit. Another piece is create a data monetization strategy. It's one thing to have fantastic and analytic capabilities and brilliant people and the passion there. But if you don't have a strategy, just like with anything else, you're not going to realize the potential that exists there. And it's really about, we're in a for-profit industry, right? So, my view is probably going to be a little different than somebody else, but it's really about linking back AI to clear drivers of your organization. What's important for us? It's the customer experience, right? And that's underlying everything that we're trying to do. And then the third is, we get so excited about this stuff, but we don't actually understand, how difficult it can be for people to change from the current way they're working, because some of these new things coming down the pipe just seem so, revolutionary. Like, why wouldn't you gravitate to this? But people are very dedicated to their current ways of working. We are actually working on something near and dear to the heart. Like we're augmenting the way people think, which is a very personal thing. You've got personal experiences in the background, right? And we're saying, hey, trust this system to do that piece for you, or to augment that knowledge that you've built up over time, right? So it's important not to underestimate the org change management or organizational change management required with some of this stuff, no matter how obvious it seems to be. So I guess those would be my top 3.
Yeah, thank you. And I really like the part about literacy itself. I think that's something that's really important, and a lot of effort should be made in order to make sure we're not furthering the digital gap and making preventing some people from getting opportunities because of some inequalities that are essentially that they can't control. But yeah, I would like to follow up with Amber, because I guess my question is more in the sense of would you say that companies are Arise can help with issues with the data literacy, essentially, by helping companies understand their data more, maybe identify gaps? Do you want to add on to that?
Yes, absolutely. Right. So around the idea of, finding these errors in production, everything can go right into Jupyter Notebook. You feel confident with it. You put it out in the real world, things are going to change with it. And it's pretty much identifying where is the bias in the model, where is the performance going down? And that's what we're working on with ML observability. And in terms of education, we actually produce a lot of material. We have a free course, free version of the product too, just to help folks understand that it's not just about that metric that matters. What matters are our profitability, are the success of the customers, are customers happy and satisfied, or are they churning without you understanding why? Is your training set fairly balanced and diverse? So being able to see in production how those models are doing, because it's AI, it's not perfect. Things are expected to go wrong. And you're not expected to have all the answers before you put a model out in production. But being able to catch that early enough is the key thing. And being able to catch it, fix it, and put it right back is what we're trying to get to, because we know these models aren't static, constantly changing. The environment's constantly changing. So being able to have something in place essentially to babysit your models and making sure they're behaving appropriately is pretty key. And then doing like a root cause analysis. So essentially you could say like, oh, that's where it's happening in the data. I can go and fix that, versus, oh, something's going wrong. Let me just go through like every single part of my model, because we really want to make sure machine learning engineers are being used for what they should be, which is the model building. And a lot of times that trying to find where that error is takes a lot of time and effort. So we want to make sure teams are able to manage their models without a lot of headaches.
That's great. Thank you, Amber. And just for so the participants know, Arise is a company that's women-led, and it was founded by 2 women of color. So yeah, I'm really loving a lot of the work that Arise is doing, and I wish you had time earlier to talk about these efforts, but yeah, you have to move on. And I guess last question for John before we conclude. You already mentioned how the government is supporting AltaML, but can you share more examples of how the government can support AI research and education, essentially support the next generation for the changes?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think, the government can have a key role in this next generation. Invest in retraining. There is a fit for almost everyone in AI. There are so many different roles. You can come at it from different perspectives. We want different perspectives. So provide that retraining, the reduction in barriers to get there, like our talent accelerator programs or others that are offered are great ways to help be more inclusive. The government can also put an effort in to bring more AI to modernize the government processes, which by design are full of bureaucracy, to be thoughtful, provide transparency, and they have a responsibility to their citizens. But some of them are in dire need of modernization. And so moving their own processes forward would be a big step. And thirdly, Canada has a leadership role in developing our AI policies, right? Responsible AI policies. This has an impact on us now and in the future. And Canada is capable of being a leader in this. And we look to our government to work collaboratively with us to build these responsible AI policies. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, John. All right, so that pretty much concludes our panel. I hope you all got, you can ask your questions in the chat in the QA, and don't hesitate to reach out to myself or the panelists. If you have more questions, we can share links to their website, and that I think AltaML is going to be present at the career fair if you have more questions, as well as ATV and TD as well. So yeah, you might get chances to ask more questions on that topic. And before we leave, maybe one question for all our panelists. So what are any key points you'd like to echo from today's panel?
I'll go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Holly.
I don't know. I actually would want to throw one thing out there to the audience, because I know everybody, there's a lot of people out there on the job market that are watching this. And I would say, as opposed to echoing some comments, I would just put this to you. What is your passion? And if, you can demonstrate a curiosity, that's going to go a long way, so you will have technical considerations. And of course, I mentioned things around communication, but really try to show your curiosity. You're here because you have a curiosity. And I think if you can really find a way for that to come through in your job searches and interviews, I think you're going to be a step ahead, because that's really what shows the spark.
Thank you, Holly. Bianca?
Yeah, I can add on to that as well, since I did see a lot of hiring questions in the chat there. So I think the interest is out there. I think there's a couple of things. Resilience and adaptability right now are extremely important, because the technology is changing so fast. That means so are the jobs, and that means even our jobs, right? So, we're all going to be facing quite a few changes in the next while. Empathy. right? As you work with different groups, they're going through change, right? And so we do look for empathy as well. Change is hard. It's hard for everybody. So yeah, and really, like Holly said, find your passion in terms of what you really want to do, because then it will come through.
You, Joan?
Yeah, my final thoughts, I'd like to tie this session back to women in AI's goals and objectives. I agree. I think diversity generates revenue. We want to hire, a diverse skill set and backgrounds. Women think differently, and the presence of women, we can look at things in a different way, have different opinions, perspectives. We can work towards consensus that way, and all benefit from that kind of diverse thinking. And we need more women role models in the industry. So let's celebrate our female tech leaders, encourage more girls to pursue their interests and passions in tech, and increase our diverse pool. For AltaML, we're at 36% female employment within AltaML. We work strategically to have neutral language in our postings, to have diverse, at least 25% or to 50% women representation on the interviews and assessments, and try to find a reason why not to hire somebody to add to our role. We're not looking for someone to fit into our culture, but to add to our culture. And I hope other companies have that same approach. I think a lot of them do, and it's just a beautiful thing to see. I'm so glad Women in AI gave us this opportunity to have this discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just pipe in here from the comments. Yeah, a lot of people looking for that first role. I also put in a way to connect with me on our community Slack, my LinkedIn. Before I was at Arise, I actually helped a lot of folks get their first MLE role in the Bay Area. And it really comes down to kind of trying to get that warm intro. When you send out LinkedIn, it has, for like every 100 you send out, you might get 10 replies. And that's a very generous number. So when you're getting those automatic rejections, like I see someone in the chat talking about them, you probably were already filtered and it's an automatic rejection. You can definitely get feedback when you do an actual interview with someone and you ask what was missing or what would you like to see more of. Note, interviewers are always on your side. They want to stop interviewing and just hire you. So they're always on your side. They want to be able to say like the interview was great and you're able to come work for them. I would say in this environment where a lot of things are virtual, attend as many of these types of virtual conferences as you can. Add everyone everyone whose talk you've seen, like add them on LinkedIn. If you see a good role at their company, ask for like a warm introduction. People are very incentivized to do that because a lot of times there's a referral bonus. They'll hop on a call with you, tell them what they like about the role with you. If they like you, then they'll get a great coworker. They might get a referral bonus. So people are very incentivized to introduce your resume. That's the number one thing that tends to get you to the next round from what I've seen, is just having someone like submit you, like give a referral. And that happens from making a lot of these connections through these types of meetups and communities.
Thank you. Great. These are all great tips and advice. Thank you for being here at the panel. It's unfortunate we couldn't go over some of the questions in the QA, but we can take it to the chat. So yeah, that ends our panel. And I would like to give the talk back to Yukon so she can introduce our next technical speaker. Thank you again.
Thanks.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yukon Jiang. I don't have the background, but I'm with Women in AI. I'm the city lead of Calgary. The reason why I don't have a background is because it's giving me a very weird eyebrow and it's purple. So I think it's better to use my natural background. So I landed in Calgary 10 years ago, and I never left Calgary. I see how beautiful this city is, and also I've experienced the up and downs of the oil and gas industry. I see a lot of people, or many people in Calgary are very well trained, and many of them are wanting to step into the area of AI, especially women in this area. And I've myself experiencing different difficulties through different life stages, either as an entry level data scientist or now mid-senior level. I know women, we experience a lot of things, not only in the job area, but also family. So my passion here in Calgary is to build a community that we all support each other throughout every life stages, no matter you're looking for jobs or trying to advance your career. In Calgary right now, we have a team of 12. So if you're interested to join the Calgary Women in the AI community, please let me know. And today it's my great honor to introduce Jomana Goshen, the Senior Director, Applied Machine Learning Research, Mila Quebec AI Institute, to our symposium. Jomana Goshen completed a PhD in computer science at University of Montreal under the supervision of Yoshua Bengio. After a postdoc at McGill University Health Center, she moved to industry where she has been leading deep learning projects for over 15 years. Since 2018, she has been directing Mila's applied machine learning research team, whose mandate is to help industrial partners build innovative solutions based on deep learning. Today, she's going to bring us the topic of towards trustworthy automatic diagnosis system by emulating doctors' reasoning with deep reinforcement learning. Thank you so much for joining us, Jomana. Now over to you.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So hi, everyone. My name is Jomana Goshen. I'm going to present today the work of a larger team related to building a proof of concept with respect to a medical project. This is joint work between Mila and Dialogue. Dialogue is a Montreal-based company. It's a virtual healthcare provider which has a telemedicine platform. And then when they came to us at Mila, they wanted to work on building an automated medical history taking system. So before we talk about their system, let's just understand what this means. When a patient goes to see a doctor, the first thing that the doctor does is engage in a question answering session with the patient to try to understand what are the symptoms that the patient is experiencing. And the doctor might also ask questions about antecedents, either related directly to the patient or to the family history. So we call that evidence collection. Once the doctor finishes collecting the evidence, he or she will decide on the next steps. For example, the doctor might decide to establish a diagnosis or might ask for additional medical exams to try to better understand what's happening with the patient. So this is what we call medical history taking. Dialogue has had a rule-based system for medical history taking built by doctors, but the system had several shortcomings, and they wanted to replace it with a better solution, and they wanted this solution to be data-driven. Now, Dialogue is not the only company interested in this topic. There are several companies working on it, and there are also several people in academia, including the machine learning community, who are looking into building automatic diagnosis systems. And the way people have defined the problem is as follows. You have an automatic diagnosis system which will interact with the patient. The patient starts by providing to the system some basic information, like their sex and their age. And then the patient provides what we call a chief complaint. So this is like the main symptom that they are experiencing. Based on this information, the system has to decide what first question to ask. And then the patient answers this question, and the system every time uses all the information collected so far to decide what next question to ask. And this continues until the system decides that it has collected enough information, at which point the system predicts the pathology or the disease that the patient is suffering from. So when we started this project, we spoke to the doctor with whom we collaborated to try to understand if this was the right problem definition. And it turns out that it is not the right problem definition. People have been trying to solve the wrong problem. So first we needed to properly define the problem. The first thing to keep in mind is that doctors at this moment in time will not accept to have a fully automated system. There needs to be a human in the loop. So basically you can have a system that talks to a patient, but after the system finishes to talking to a patient, the doctor will review the conversation, will possibly ask additional questions, and then will establish a diagnosis. Now, if we focus on the automatic diagnosis system itself, the doctor wanted to see at least 3 things. First, the doctor indicated that it is completely incorrect to build a system that will directly identify the single pathology that the patient is suffering from, because very often the information provided by the patient is insufficient to figure out what is the disease the patient is suffering from. For example, if I tell you that I have fever and I'm coughing, I might have the flu, I might have pneumonia, I might have COVID, and without doing additional medical exams, no one can figure out what disease I'm suffering from. So doctors function or reason in terms of what we call a differential diagnosis, which is a short list of pathologies that the patient might be suffering from. And the doctor then will ask for additional medical exams to narrow down this list. The second thing that the doctor wanted to see is a prioritization of severe diseases. If a patient might be suffering from a severe pathology, it is crucial that the severe pathology be included in the differential diagnosis. If, on the other hand, the patient is not suffering from a severe pathology, but it is important to at least explore this pathology, then the doctor wants to know that the system has explored this pathology and ruled it out from the differential diagnosis. Finally, the doctor indicated that when he interacts with patients, he splits the conversation into 2 phases. Initially, in the exploration phase, the doctor keeps an open mind. He's asking questions. He still doesn't know what is the differential diagnosis of the patient. And so in his mind, he's creating a differential diagnosis that is constantly changing. And that at some point, the doctor forms a differential diagnosis and then enters in what we call a confirmation phase, where the doctor will continue to ask some questions just to make sure that he identified the right differential diagnosis. So the doctor wanted to see all 3 elements covered by our system. Our system is called Cassandre. I won't have time to explain it in detail, so I will give a high-level overview. So the first thing in the system is it takes as an input what we call the state that describes the patient at a particular moment in time. So here I'm showing the state at time t. This is like the interaction term corresponding to number t in the interaction between the system and the patient. What does this state contains as information? The sex and the age of the patient and the answers to all the questions that have been asked so far. So we take this information and we encode it, and then the representation that is generated is sent to two networks. There is a classifier model and there is a policy model. The classifier model is responsible for generating the differential diagnosis. So the way things work is that this model will generate a posterior distribution over the pathologies, all the pathologies that exist out there. And then all the pathologies whose probability is smaller than 0.01 will be removed, and the remaining pathologies will represent the differential diagnosis. The policy network is responsible for deciding what is the next action to perform. So now we're at a particular step in the interaction with the patient. We need to decide what we will do next. There are 2 options. Either we decide that we're going to ask yet another question, and in that case, we need to decide which question to ask, or the system can decide to exit, to stop asking questions. Now, this entire system is trained, well, first to train it, we need patients. I'm going to explain what those patients look like in a couple of minutes. But then to train it, we use deep reinforcement learning. In particular, we use the rainbow version of the DQN algorithm. Now, when we talk about reinforcement learning, we talk about rewards. So actually, there are several rewards in our system. There is a basic reward, and then there are several additional rewards that we added to be able to inject the elements that the doctor considered to be crucial for him to trust an automated model. So I'm going to present to you the rewards. You're going to see equations. I will actually not describe them in detail because we don't have time, but I will give you the intuition for every single equation. So first, the environment reward. This reward contains 3 elements. First, every time we ask a question, we will penalize the system because we don't want the system to ask a lot of questions. So this is what we have here. If the question that we ask leads to a positive answer from the patient, so we're collecting information about symptoms or antecedents that the patient has, we provide a reward to the agent. If the question leads to a negative answer, we neither reward nor penalize the agent because some negative answers can be very informative, others can be pretty much useless, and we don't know which one is informative and which one is useless, so we stay neutral. Now, if we look at the exploration and the confirmation rewards, so let's first think about the exploration reward. This reward kicks in at the beginning of the interaction between the agent and the patient. And what this reward does is that it will reward the agent if for every 2 successive interaction turns, the agent generates differential diagnoses that are very different from each other because we're exploring, we're keeping an open mind, and we're changing the differential diagnosis. The confirmation reward kicks in towards the end of the interaction with the patient. And here we're going to reward the agent is if, as we get closer and closer to the end of the interaction, the differential diagnosis that is being generated by the agent is getting closer and closer to the true differential diagnosis that we want the agent to generate. Now, if we look at the severity reward, so the first severity reward will reward the agent if there are some severe pathologies that the patient is not suffering from and should not be included in the differential diagnosis. For those severe pathologies, we will reward the agent if the agent explicitly rules them out of the differential diagnosis as soon as possible in the interaction. And then finally, we have the classification reward, which kicks in completely at the end of the interaction between the agent and the system. This reward is formed of 2 terms. First, we will reward the agent if the final differential diagnosis that is generated by the agent matches or is very close to the true differential diagnosis that should have been generated. Moreover, if the differential diagnosis that the agent is expected to generate must include some severe pathologies, then we will reward the agent if those severe pathologies are included in the differential diagnosis. Now, in terms of the data to train our model, there are no big data sets of real patients that exist out there. So we decided to create a data set of synthetic patients, and we worked with a doctor for nearly 9 months to create this data set. This data set contains 1.3 million synthetic patients. It covers a universe of 49 diseases, and those diseases are represented by a total of 223 symptoms and antecedents. For every patient, we have the sex and the age of the patient. And then when we created each patient, we created them with a disease. And the patient had also some symptoms and antecedents associated with this disease. And then we used a system that helped us generate a differential diagnosis that can be used to train our model. This is actually the system that Dialogue had and which was vetted by doctors in terms of the quality of the differential diagnosis that it could generate. Now, we compared our model to 4 baselines. There is 1 reinforcement learning baseline, 2 supervised learning baselines, and 1 Bayesian inference model. The first 2 models, the reinforcement learning and the supervised learning baseline, are the state-of-the-art models in reinforcement learning and supervised learning for automatic diagnosis systems. Now, none of those models covers the 3 elements that the doctor considered important. All of them are focusing on the wrong problem definition. And none of those models can also predict a differential diagnosis. So we modified those models to be able to tweak them so that they could predict a differential diagnosis. Now, in terms of the experiments, we split our patients by having 1 million patients in our training set, 140,000 in the validation set, and a similar number in the test set. As for the metrics, we considered many metrics. Here, I'm only showing a subset of them. First, we have the interaction length. This is the number of questions we ask. We want it to be as small as possible. We want the recall of the positive evidence to be as high as possible. We want to collect as much positive information as possible. The third metric is called ground truth pathology accuracy. This metric measures whether the real pathology that the patient is suffering from is included in the predicted differential diagnosis. It's very important that it be included. So we want this accuracy to be as high as possible. We also want to maximize the F1 score of the differential diagnosis, meaning that we want to generate the right differential diagnosis. And then for the severe pathologies, we have two metrics, which are the rule-in and the rule-out rates. So the rule-in rate measures whether out of all the severe pathologies, which should have been included in the differential diagnosis, how many did we include? And the rule-out rate is out of all the severe pathologies, which should have been excluded from the differential diagnosis, how many did we manage to exclude? And we use the harmonic mean to combine those two quantities. Now, if we look at the results first, as I mentioned, for the different models, we have two variants. One variant where the models were trained to directly predict the differential diagnosis, and another variant where the models were trained to only predict the single pathology that the patient is suffering from. And remember, this is not the right way of solving the problem. But those models, when they are trained to predict the single pathology the patient is suffering from, usually generate a posterior distribution over the pathologies. And we can, if we want, to interpret this posterior distribution as a proxy of the differential. So if we look at the various metrics, first, if we focus on the metric that measures whether the different models manage to include the true pathology the patient is suffering from in the predicted differential diagnosis, all approaches do really well. Now, if we look at the F1 score of the differential diagnosis, meaning did we predict the right differential diagnosis? When the approaches are not trained to directly predict the differential diagnosis, they do quite poorly. But when they are trained to predict the differential diagnosis, their performance improves, and our approach does much better than the other approaches, and the result, the difference is statistically significant. Now, if we look at the harmonic mean of the rule-in and the rule-out rate of the severe pathologies, our approach does much better than all other approaches. And again, here, the difference is statistically significant. If we look at the recall of the positive evidence, we also do better than the other approaches, and our results are statistically significant. If we look at the interaction length, our approach doesn't have the smallest interaction length, but it is in a reasonable range. And we have to remember that we're forcing our model to explore and confirm. So it is normal that in some cases it will ask more questions. Now here I've shown you the results of a quantitative evaluation. We also asked the doctor to do a qualitative evaluation. Obviously, he could do it only on a small sample of our synthetic patients. And he came back quite happy with the behavior of the model. And he said that this is the first time that he sees a model that could one day, there is still more work to be done, but that could one day be deployed in a real environment. So to conclude the work, I think one of the main contributions of the work we've done is to contribute to generate a better problem definition. People had been publishing papers trying to solve the wrong problem. And this shows how important it is to work with domain experts. Without this doctor, we would have still done something that is wrong. So we're proposing a problem definition and an approach that can take care of predicting the differential diagnosis, make sure to collect as much positive evidence as possible, and consider the severe pathologies. And the approach tries to reason like a doctor with the exploration and the confirmation phases. Our model does better on the dataset that we created compared to several other approaches, including two which are the state-of-the-art in supervised learning and in reinforcement learning. Does this mean that we're done? Obviously not. First, I think that the problem definition will still need to be refined. Second, we need to think about more metrics to be able to evaluate the model. For example, there are still no known metrics to evaluate the collection of negative evidence, but we know that some negative evidences are very important. The other thing that we need to do is create a much larger data set that covers the hundreds of pathologies that a doctor considers, but this is a lot of work. As I mentioned, it took us 9 months to create the data set that we created. And finally, we need to make sure that there is extensive validation of the model by multiple doctors, first on the synthetic patients and then on real patients. So this concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much, Jomana. As a mom of school-age kids, I know how important this tool is. It's so nice that Jomana shared us the technical details about this tool and how researchers are working hard behind the scene to use AI to make our life easier. We will talk about the questions in the lobby as we need to move on to the career fair. Thank you so much again, Jomana. It's such a great talk. Thank you so much. And for the audiences, now is the time for our career fair. And I've seen people talking in the expo page, so it's great that I know everyone is looking forward to the career fair. Before we start, I would like to thank to the companies and institutions that join us. Thank you for your support for Women in AI. This can't be available without your support, and I hope you continuously support us and provide opportunities for female in this area. The companies joining us today are Accenture, AutoML, Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute, AMI, ADB Financial, Climate Change AI, GuruLink, Happy Hive, Avado Labs, Lawagan, Mela Quebec AI Institute, Slalom, TD Vector Institute. Thank you for your support. And for the participants, you can go back to the event platform page where you see the lobby. On the right corner, there's an expo that you click on it, and then you can enter different booths of different companies. You can also search for a booth if you already know where you want to go to. Women in AI Canada in this meeting will stay in the meeting for a few minutes if you have technical issues. I will pass it to Frenzy behind the scene of Women in AI Canada to give the closing words.
Thank you so much, Yukun. And thank you so much, Jomana, for your great presentations. Now we have come to the end of the Voice Symposium part of today's event. I would like to take this opportunity and thank all the different amazing speakers and hosts that we have today, which made this event a great success. Starting off with Alexandra, our global president. Next would be our, the keynote speaker, Elisa from CIFAR. Then we had Carlos and Rosario to give away Carolina Memorial Scholarship Award, Elam, Sahir, and Jomana, who gave us excellent technical presentations from their area of work and, go in depth on the technical side of things and give different thoughts or different learnings today. I also want to take the opportunity to thank Alicia, the youngest recipient of Canada's Most Powerful Women, and for giving such an inspiring conversation today and inspiring all of us to go out and seek out what we are looking for and really excel in all that we do. And we also had an amazing panel touching up on different topics on AI industry, academy, and startups, coordinated by Sinabu. And the panelists gave their excellent view of the different, the diversity, the future of AI, the impact to the job industry, and what are their perspectives about how the industry is going and what are the things that we need to focus on. So thank you, Amber, Holly, Yanka, and Joanne, to join us today and give your thoughts on this topic. So last but not the least, there is an army of people who is supporting us today, and who helped us organize this event and put everything together. I would like to give my huge appreciation and huge thanks to Sinabu Nadie, the Montreal City lead, Kathy Ongley, National Marketing Lead of Women in AI Canada. We also have Gabrielle, who is helping us on the lobby chat, giving you guidance. We have Yvonne Waddell, Nami Sriharan, Shia Malisingam, and Yukun supporting us today. Thank you so much, all of you. And lastly, but not the least, all the career fair organizations. So we have around 13 companies and 25 hiring managers today. So they are waiting to talk to you at the booth. So please take this opportunity to go and talk to each and every one of them. So we will share the job postings in the chat as well. So look at the job postings, see which jobs are interesting to you, and make sure that you go ahead and meet all the hiring managers to get an understanding on how best to get hired in their company. Or if you have any open questions, we got a lot of questions about how to enter or how to transition careers in the chat today. So this is your opportunity to talk to the real people who are hiring for these roles. So please don't miss this opportunity. So thank you all for joining us today, and it has been an amazing event. Thank you thank you for all the participation. With that, I'd like to conclude the symposium. Thank you.